Thanks for joining us on Fox Business Morning.
Money for Breakfast with Alexis Glick and Peter Barnes starts right now.
Welcome to Money for Breakfast here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Peter Barnes. Alexis Glick will be along shortly, and here's what's coming up this morning. She wants to be president, and Hillary Clinton says she plans to enforce fiscal responsibility. That's what the New York senator told Alexis in a one-on-one interview. Here's some of that interview you'll be seeing later this morning on Money for Breakfast.
I'm for returning to fiscal responsibility. I'm for restoring fairness in our economy. I am for creating opportunities by making college affordable again.
Also ahead for you today on Money for Breakfast, could the world's biggest computer and printer maker be buying out the #1 maker of cameras? Former chair and CEO of Hewlett-Packard and now a Fox Business Network contributor, Carly Fiorina, will be here to talk about it. We'll also be hearing from one of the most powerful owners in the National Football League, the New England Patriots. Robert Kraft talks about building a winner, and he's been called the best fighter in the world, pound for pound, but he has also been a success outside the squared circle. We're talking to Oscar De La Hoya about his business skills. Fox Business editors Liz McDonald also joins us now from Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey this morning. Liz, you hanging out with the cows out there this morning in North Jersey?
Yeah, we're out here in, that's right, we're out here in sleepy, bucolic Englewood Cliffs, and it's kind of cold out here, but, you know, it's hunting season. We hear that peacocks are in season.
Oh,
so we've got our license.
Peacocks are in season.
You know, but who would have thought, who would have thought, Peter, that anybody could cover the stock market out here? But here we are, and we're going to give it a go.
All right, well, I know you can do that, so what's on your radar this morning?
What's on the radar is Citigroup and 9 other banks have met with Treasury officials over the weekend to discuss a plan to avert a credit crisis tied to their subprime and other investment assets that are related to the mortgage crisis. And this is the second time in about a month that federal regulators have stepped in to save the credit markets and to help homeowners and other borrowers who want to borrow money at this time. And so it's a really serious issue, and we're going to be taking a further look at this morning.
All right, and you also have GM on your list?
Yeah, that's right. We've got GM, and we were looking at Bank of America. We're looking at Eastman Kodak. Eastman Kodak has said that it is no longer going to be a corporate sponsor of the Olympics after the Beijing Olympics are through. We're also taking a look at Wyeth. Wyeth last week faced a $134.5 million settlement related to Prempro. That's the hormone replacement therapy for women who are facing menopause. But late on Friday, breaking news, the court decided to cut that settlement amount down to $34.5 million. So the 3 women who won this very rare victory against Wyeth are going to have to split, it looks like right now, just $34.5 million, which is a good chunk of change.
All right, Liz McDonald, I'm expecting a peacock feather when you get back here to Manhattan.
Sure, I'll deliver.
All right.
And I'll get you some farm fresh eggs as well.
Okay, thanks, Liz. Now let's go over to this morning's news headlines with Nicole Petalides.
Hi, Peter Barnes.
Hi,
Morning,
Nicole.
everybody. Well, Danaher making some merger and acquisition news. The Wall Street Journal telling Fox Business the industrial conglomerate was ready to close a deal for Textronics. The proposed $2.8 billion all-cash deal would value Tektronix shares at $38 each. Now, Tektronix, which is an electronic test and measurement company, closed Friday at $28.34 a share. Well, Hitachi says it has successfully reduced the size of key components in hard drives. Hitachi says the discovery will enable computer makers to quadruple the memory of your laptops and music players. Now, the company made the announcement at a conference in Tokyo overnight and says it expects the technology to be available to the public by the year 2011. Now, Hitachi is an ADR, American Depository Receipt. Now, an ADR is a certificate of shares of foreign stock that trades in the United States. Hitachi trades on the New York Stock Exchange downtown under the ticker symbol HIT. The stock currently trading around $67 a share. Well, now time for sports. The Colorado Rockies now one step away from baseball's World Series. The Rockies beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-1 last night. That victory gives the Rockies 3-0 edge in the series. Game 4 is tonight in Denver, and tonight only on Fox. Boston Red Sox and Cleveland Indians meet in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series in Cleveland. Now, the series is tied at 1 game apiece. In Sunday Night Football, the New Orleans Saints were in Seattle to play the Seahawks. Now, the biggest highlight from the game, maybe, was the one that almost didn't happen. During a timeout in the first quarter, an NBC camera suspended above the field came crashing down and almost hit some of the Seahawk players. After a short delay, the camera was actually moved out of the way. Things didn't get much better for the Seahawks after that incident. The Saints won the game 28-17. All right, here's a quick look at your Fox Business travel forecast. Clear skies on the East Coast should make for easy travel there. Showers moving into the Midwest later in the day could force delays at Chicago's airport, so do leave some time there. Your full forecast coming up before our next break. And here's a look at the futures right now. I can tell you the Dow and the S&P pointing to a slightly higher open this Monday morning. To the overseas markets now. Prices on the Tokyo Exchange closed higher overnight. The Nikkei average gaining almost 27 points today. Let's see what European markets are doing. Fox Business News London reporter Ashley Webster joins us with the latest. Ashley.
Good morning, Nicole. I'm just glad I'm not a peacock in New Jersey right now. I didn't know they actually hunted peacocks, but hey, you learn something new every day. Well, near record crude oil prices are fueling the markets both in Asia and here in Europe. Here in London, the FTSE trading up by about 18 points. In Germany, the DAX off just slightly by a couple of points, and the CAC in France has been up all day and is currently up by about 22 points. Those oil prices doing wonders for stocks. BP, Royal Dutch and Shell all making nice gains today on the back of crude oil. All of this compares in comparison to Asia, where the Hang Seng in Hong Kong gained nearly 500 points. PetroChina, that's that country's biggest oil producer, up by 10%. BHP Billiton, Australia's largest oil producer, up another percent today. That's also record territory for BHP. The roller coaster continues for troubled UK bank Northern Rock. The stock down 20% in trading this morning in London. Northern was bailed out by the Bank of England last month and had to borrow billions of pounds during a credit crisis. Today, Credit Suisse Group said that there was significant downside risk following a takeover bid by Richard Branson's Virgin Group. Traders not liking the sound of that. Northern Rock again trading down by about 20% this morning. And finally, all eyes will be on the G7 summit in Washington later this week. European finance ministers kind of asking the U.S., do something about your dollar. European exporters are really being priced out of foreign markets right now because the euro is so strong. That's the very latest from London. Back to you in New York.
Thank you, Ashley. I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of news out of that G7 meeting. All right, that brings you up to date on the latest business headlines. Peter, back to you.
All right, Nicole, thanks. Billy Joel saying how he'd rather laugh with the sinners and then die with the saints. Well, we won't be so judgmental here at Fox Business. Sorry, Billy. But that won't stop us from picking our winners and sinners each and every day. We call the segment fittingly Winners and Sinners. Coming up first, a couple of American marketing icons giving us a new chapter in the cola wars, and this time it's physical. Two delivery men for Coke and Pepsi got into an altercation outside an Indiana, Pennsylvania Walmart this weekend after counterpunching each other with verbal barbs for several minutes. The two apparently tried to run each other down with pallets of their products. That's when Pepsi's David Paulina allegedly punched Robert Costco in the face 3 times, breaking his nose and giving him a black eye. Police are still investigating that incident. The Ohio State University and South Florida University, a pair of winners. The rash of upsets occurring each weekend in college football occurred again this weekend. That propelled the Buckeyes and the Bulls to the top 2 spots in this season's initial Bowl Championship Series poll. Unbeaten Ohio State, now 7-0, is also ranked first in the Associated Press and USA Today polls this morning. And as for the Bulls, they didn't even have a football program until 1997. Talk about a great investment. The top 2 schools in the final BCS standings on December 2nd will play for the national title on January 7th at the Louisiana Astrodome. ConAgra Center this morning coming under fire for the manner in which it recalled salmonella-tainted pot pies. Critics claiming that ConAgra's decision to wait until last Thursday to recall the pot pies increased the chances that more people would become sick. The delay also opening up the company to greater legal liability. ConAgra issued a health alert on Tuesday and asked stores to stop selling Banquet and some store brand chicken and turkey pot pies, but the recall did not come until Thursday. USDA investigators are still working to determine the cause of that contamination. And finally, filmmaker Tyler Perry, a winner again. Perry's latest film, Why Did I Get Married?, pulled in $21.5 million at the weekend box office, topping the box office charts. It marks the third time Perry has claimed box office gold for an opening. His 2005 hit Diary of a Mad Black Woman debuted with nearly $22 million, and Medea's Family Reunion opened with $30 million in 2006. The 30-year-old Perry starred and directed and produced in all three films. Let's turn now to our roundtable for a take on this morning's winners and losers and sinners. Joining us is Wall Street guru Eric Bolling. I think you just got a promotion, my friend. Now you're a guru.
That's great.
And Fox News contributor Charles Payne. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
And you're going to be regulars on the show, which we are
Irregular.
looking for. Irregular, which we're looking forward to. Well, the obvious ones to talk about first here, Coke and Pepsi.
You know what I think they should have had? If they can get that Walmart security camera, that would make a perfect Cola Wars commercial. I'd love to see that.
Yeah, we got to get the security camera. But what about these stocks? I mean, yeah, they're duking it out in the parking lot, but they're also still duking it out in supermarkets and convenience stores.
Fantastic companies have performed very well year to date, 9 and 12%. Coke and Pepsi, really fantastic international exposure. Mm-hmm. Both companies have major league exposure in Europe and Asia. Fantastically trading higher. I think, you really can't lose. If you're an investor and you're looking for some exposure to this type of consumer stock, either one's going to get you probably done through 2008. Good place to be.
But you know what's interesting, though, is with both of them, they are somewhat in trouble in terms of the carbonated soda beverages, particularly in America. Now, overseas are doing well, but they lost market share last year. That market share is going to accelerate this year to the downside. In the meantime, you do have new names like Rockstar, Red Bull, Hanson. My wife sold her Hanson stock last week only because it went from 30 to 64 in a matter of weeks. But, those newer beverages, outside of carbonated soda, because if we're talking about sinners, the carbonated sodas here in America are considered sinners these days, and people are moving to waters and energy drinks.
I tell you, though, Pepsi's not just Pepsi. They have Gatorade, they have Tropicana, they have some water stuff, and Frito-Lay. They own that salty snack market as well. So when you go Pepsi, you're getting a lot more than just Pepsi products.
And one thing about these kind of consumer goods companies, consumer products companies, is that if you're worried about where the market might be going, it's rocketing up here over 14,000. These kind of stocks are a good defensive place for investors.
It's sort of what you would call a widows and orphans type of stock, sure.
Yeah. Now, we also have to disclose every time we talk about these stocks. Do either of you guys have positions in these?
I don't.
You don't? No? Okay. All right. Now let's talk about ConAgra.
Well, ConAgra, the way they handled this recall is just probably, it's so interesting. I could look at a chart of a lot of stocks and I could tell you if they're sinner already. This stock has gone nowhere in the last 2 years, mostly sideways, underperforming the market greatly. And what I think the biggest sinner here, though, is the U.S. Agriculture Department. They don't have the power to have these type of recalls. They have to wait for the company to voluntarily do that. So, they say we had 40,000 cases of salmonella last year, maybe 30 times that amount because people with milder cases didn't report it. So, yeah, ConAgra is a bad guy in this particular instance, but we need someone out there protecting the consumer.
Look, the sinner part is that they didn't pull pot pie off the market before. Even before there was a salmonella problem. They should have had that off the market.
You're not a pot pie fan. I love pot pie.
You know what's a great stock along the ConAgra line is Archer Daniels Midland. It hasn't really performed lately. It's kind of been on a downturn based on a really cheap ethanol. Ethanol prices have gone down. It's kind of dragged ADM. But ADM is really an international company, food services company, and probably a better company owned than ConAgra.
But I thought anything with commodities like a ConAgra has been on fire lately, except for anything with corn and ethanol. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Anything with agricultural commodities has done well, except for ConAgra and ADM. ADM basically made their bed with ethanol. They're the number one biggest ethanol producer in the world. And the problem is the price of ethanol went south on them while the price of corn went north. So it cost them more to buy the corn, run it through their distillery, and turn it. So the
profit margins
they were living by the sword and they died by the sword. The stock was hot at one point a couple of years ago, couldn't be stopped, and now it's having a tough time getting off the dime.
Either you guys have positions in ConAgra?
No, or ADM.
Or at ADM? No. Okay, good. Oh, that makes it simple. All right. All right. Still ahead, a check on the stocks that could put money in your your pocket today. We'll go back to our stocks editor, Liz McDonald, out there in the cold of New Jersey. That's next here on Money for Breakfast.
Where you go in life is up to you. There's one airline that can take you there. United. It's time to fly.
Fox Business is business news for everybody.
We're going to speak in language that you understand.
Following the market's every move.
Everybody here knows the money business.
It's going to be fast-paced, exciting.
A lot of fire, a lot of passion.
As it's happening, we'll break it down and show you how it affects your bottom line.
There is no reason the business news has to be boring.
With a team you can trust.
We're going to do things you've never seen before. Now that's an opportunity that I simply cannot turn down.
The Daytime Block, more than just numbers. Only on Fox Business.
Time now for our Fox Business Squawk Box. This is a sampling of stocks to watch that could help you make some money today. Fox Business Stocks editor Liz McDonald out there in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, joins our panel, which includes Eric Bolling and Fox News contributor Charles Payne. All right, Liz, let's start with you out there. Financials.
Out here in the woods
Yes.
of New Jersey. Like I said, it's hard to believe anybody could cover the stock market out here, but we're going to give it a go.
Well, go for it.
So what we're looking at this morning, is Citigroup. Citigroup is going to announce its earnings today, and they pre-announced that they're going to take a 60% hit to their third quarter profits. That's a 60% downturn from last year. And Citigroup met, along with 9 other banks over the weekend, according to the Wall Street Journal, with Treasury officials to avert a credit crisis. The plan is they want to pool together about $100 billion in assets related to the subprime mortgage market and other investments. And the idea is that, hey, the banks need to avert a credit crisis. If they had to bring write-downs onto their balance sheet, that could cause, rates to go up, and it could hurt the borrowers in the mortgage market and other borrowers as well.
Guys, what about Citigroup and the financials?
For 4 years I've traded Citigroup, and this stock has found a way to be worth $50 no matter what. In other words, it goes to 56. I think the range is like 56 to 43 over the last 3 or 4 years. Anytime it's under 50, you have a hunch it's going to 50. Anytime it's over, get out, sell it, because you don't want to own that stock. It's going back to 50.
Well, you know what I think is interesting? We could have had this one on the previous segment, winners and sinners, because a lot of people, not just shareholders, think they're sinners, but some other people. And I think this bailout's going to be looked at, and it's going to cause some political wrangling on D.C., but what doesn't? At the end of the day, though, I think it's a fantastic deal, because what's been lacking all summer long and even now is confidence in the system. This adds another layer of confidence that we badly need.
Let's not forget, though, they're not doing this for free. This is a good business decision for these banks. They're buying some stuff at distressed prices. They're getting in at a good time as well.
Go ahead, Liz.
The fear is that Citigroup could face further write-downs beyond the $3 billion it reportedly is going to take. They've got about $100 billion in what are called structured investment vehicles. That's a quarter of the amount of assets in these off-balance sheet entities. And the accounting on it is extremely opaque. Companies only have to disclose if they think it's a significant problem. And, it's got some accounting experts sitting back and saying, wait a second, is this similar to problems we've seen in the past with off-balance sheet entities creating problems for companies that use these entities? It's a serious issue, so much so that Treasury had to step in and say, hey, we've got to look at this.
Well, what bothers me about this story is I thought the bad news was over. I thought that the banks had already announced all these write-downs and everything else, and now is this new bad news for the financial sector, or what?
The thing is, you've got 2.5 million of these mortgage resets coming up over the next couple of years. We know it's not over. I think what we were hoping was over is the shock shock value of it and the sense that nobody was doing anything. Okay, so the Fed steps in. We have Hank Paulson, being much more aggressive.
Treasury
and now we
Secretary,
have the banks getting together with the federal government. So it seems like we're doing the right things to handle it. At the end of the day,
but is this a new round of bad news?
No. This is
the same
good
bad
news.
news.
This is actually all right. Charles is right. It's the same bad news that it's putting a calming effect on the markets, and the markets like calm. They don't like surprises. This is good when 7 or 8 banks step up and put $80 billion into this fight. Look, it means the Fed's being diligent. It means the financial sector's being diligent, and that things are going to be okay.
Liz?
Well, I agree in this instance with Charles. Reports indicate that Standard & Poor's is saying, hey, these write-offs could continue through 2009, and they could amount to $150 billion. That's billion with a B. That's a lot of write-downs.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Is this the start of new bad news? Because the financials have already written off $20 billion, and now Standard & Poor's saying it could be as much as $150 billion over the next, 2, 3, 4 years.
Yeah, well, we saw this movie before with the tech stocks in 2001, 2002, 2003, where the write-offs kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. Although we believe these are the smartest guys in the room, and they'll turn their ship a lot faster than the tech companies turn theirs.
Well, is there anything in the financial sector that looks good?
Goldman Sachs has been a fantastic stock for years, and it continues to perform. It's kind of like the bellwether for the financials. And look, that stock is almost at an all-time high. Every time it dips, people come in and buy it. And it really says, even though there may be shaky times, you have credit problems, you have credit derivative problems, it's okay. Companies like Goldman Sachs are going to continue to perform, continue to make money. And if you're an investor in Goldman Sachs, GS, you're going to make money over the long haul.
That's why I laughed when you said it, because it's the first name that popped in my mind.
Yeah.
Liz?
I have to agree with Eric. Goldman is cheap. It's trading, I think, at around 9 times earnings. The other bank that we're looking at this morning is another Fox 50. It's in our Fox 50 index. That's Bank of America. They're going to announce earnings on Thursday. And this is more of a retail play. Their investment side of their operations is smaller than Citigroup, but they too face the troubled loans in their mortgage division. So I think B of A is an interesting stock to watch as well.
Liz, we weren't supposed to talk about the Fox 50 until the next hour. But that's okay.
Well, you know what? I couldn't resist because it's such an interesting index. There's so many great, interesting stocks to watch in it.
That's a little tease for the folks at home. But talk about Bank of America here. Earnings coming out on Thursday. It's in the same boat as the others, or?
Well, they made an interesting purchase a couple of weeks ago. They bought into Countrywide Financial at a discount. Suddenly, it's not such a discount anymore. I think they paid $20 a share. It dipped to 17 or 18, and then you had, Mozilla
they put $2 billion in.
But you talked about the perspective too of this continuing news. All of these guys have seen their estimates lowered over the last 90 days dramatically, including Bank of America. So we might actually be in a position to see earnings surprises, even though the news is going to be bad. There could be positive surprises compared to the estimates.
And Liz touched on something very important. These financials are trading at such a low, what we call PE. It basically tells you how expensive a stock is relative to its earnings.
Good.
Very low PEs in these sectors. It's probably not a bad time to jump in and start dabbling in the financial stocks. They haven't performed this year, but may start to in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and one thing, thank you for explaining what a PE is, because we have Bill O'Reilly has the no spin zone. This is going to be Fox Business News, the no jargon zone. So we promise you that. Coming up next on Money for Breakfast, Liz lets loose. She's live in Englewood Cliffs with some hot stocks and chasing peacocks. Stay with us.
We're debt-free.
You are! We take regular people and completely revolutionize their lives.
The show where cash is king. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Yippee-ki-yay.
The following great moment in baseball history is brought to you by The Comebacks in theaters October 19th.
Buckner! What? What's the 6-letter word for a tropical fruit? I'm thinking it might be banana.
Sip it.
Could be papaya.
This is the World Series, man. Are you crazy?
Slow roller down to first. It gets through Buckner's legs. New York wins! New York wins!
It's papaya. Don't miss this and other great sports movie moments in The Comebacks. Rated PG-13.
And welcome back to Money for Breakfast. I'm Jenna Lee. Topping our Fox Business Morning radar, Citi is set to report earnings this morning. We just heard the guys talk about that. The financial giant already lowered expectations earlier this month. Citi says it now expects a 60% decline in income versus the same period last year. Also on the Fox Morning radar is Mattel. Now, the toy maker caught in the middle of the recall of Chinese toys because of lead concerns. Mattel reporting this morning. Actually, the news just crossed the wires. We'll get that to you as soon as we can. Analysts are expecting to hear earnings about 70 cents per share, and the stock actually closed on Friday at $22.45. And finally here, keep an eye on shares of Biogen Idec. The company says that there's already some interested parties, including famed billionaire Carl Icahn. Biogen Idec trades under the ticker symbol BIIB and was trading near $70 a share. It looks like they got a boost in pre-market action, trading up around $77 a share. Peter, over to you.
All right, Jenna, thanks. Now back to our stocks editor, Liz McDonald, wasting no time, letting loose here on Money for Breakfast. Liz is out in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, joins us live to tell us why. Liz, you know, I know there's I used to do some work out there myself. I recall there's a Starbucks around there somewhere. Hope you're getting
There's a Starbucks.
Yeah, hope you get some coffee to keep you warm.
I hope so too.
All right, what else are you looking at?
I think I heard a cow mooing. I'm looking at GM. You know, GM has been a stock that's been beaten up. But, you know, GM saw a bright spot in its earnings in an interesting area in the Middle East, Africa, and Latin America. Sales in those regions rose 22% versus a year ago. And that's putting GE trading at around its 52-week high.
Hey, Liz, I just want to jump in and let you know that Mattel has reported 61 cents a share in third quarter earnings, and that is a penny shy of expectations, which were 62 cents a share. Given all the problems at the company, probably not that big of a surprise. But back on GM for a moment, it did get that deal, resolution of its contract with the United Auto Workers, and that's helped the stock a little bit.
That has helped the stock. The interesting thing about that trust that they set up to handle their retiree health care and other benefits is that GM may still be on the hook for those benefits if the amount that's put into the fund doesn't cover the costs of the benefits. And, you know, we saw this issue with Caterpillar in 1998. In fact, Caterpillar is still in a court fight with workers who are in the UAW. The UAW workers are saying, hey, wait a second, Caterpillar, you need to pony up some more money to cover our benefits. So a trust sometimes may not be the cure-all for these kinds of situations.
Yeah, but GM also getting a little boost from overseas sales of its cars as well. And Ford got a little boost this week on the news of the GM settlement and the Chrysler settlement with the United Auto Workers as well.
That's right.
Real quick, well, let's switch over to Mattel, which is I know you wanted to talk about. We're now getting the numbers breaking here on the wires, and just want to let you know that it announced a $40 million charge for recall expenses regarding all these toys that it had to recall, the toys made in China that were tainted with lead.
That's right.
And other toys. What else do we need to talk about with Mattel here? Is the bad news over?
Well, with Mattel, you know, it may be over. Mattel had already said that this problem was out there a few weeks ago. So when you talk to analysts on Wall Street about this stock, the term that they often use that it's may already be baked into the stock price. The stock is still hanging in. And yeah, Mattel is coming forward with some interesting earnings reports that are looking pretty strong.
Yeah, and we have to watch what happens with Mattel here coming into the Christmas season, whether or not this whole controversy over the Chinese toys makes consumers a little wary to go into the stores and buy toys from Mattel. That's got to be a big issue going into the fourth quarter.
It is going to be a big issue. And, you know, you got to wonder with the Beijing Olympics coming up if we're going to be seeing more reports as, you know, the cameras get trained on China and the practices in China and how they manufacture their goods. If you're going to be seeing more of these kinds of problems in the marketplace.
All right, Liz, I think I see a cow walking behind you there in the parking lot.
I heard that cow, actually.
Right.
I think I see a peacock. We got to go get our rifle.
Okay.
It's hunting season out here.
All right, Liz, thanks. Coming up next, a check of the news you missed while you were sleeping, and how much hotter can the Colorado Rockies get? The team on the verge of completing a sweep. The details coming up.
The traders at TD Ameritrade are a demanding bunch. In fact, they want it all.
You know, when I place an order, don't just fill it. Get me the best available price.
A better price means more money in my pocket.
That's why TD Ameritrade's proprietary order routing technology consistently seeks the best available price.
I've got quotes, charts, watch lists, just the way I want them.
Mission control, right here.
Command Center 2.0 lets you customize your trading space.
No risk, no reward. But I need to know what the risk is.
My secret? Back test?
Back test.
Back test.
Strategy Desk lets you back test your trading ideas to help you choose the best ones. And it's free. With superior tools like these, traders get what they want.
It's trader heaven.
Call or go to tdameritrade.com. Independence is the spirit that drives America's most successful investors.
Trade commission-free for 30 days. Plus, get $100 cash when you open an account. Tonight, debt disasters. Say goodbye to your money woes and gain financial control. Dave has the answers to get back in the game. Advice that's always on the money. It's about money, plain and simple. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Welcome back to Money for Breakfast here on the Fox Business Network. I'm Peter Barnes. My colleague Alexis Glick will be along shortly. Here's what we're watching this morning. She wants to be president, and Hillary Clinton says she plans to enforce fiscal responsibility. That's what the New York senator told Alexis in a one-on-one interview. Here's some of that interview you'll be seeing later this morning on Money for Breakfast.
I'm for returning to fiscal responsibility. I'm for restoring fairness in our economy. I am for creating opportunities by making college affordable again.
Also ahead for you today on Money for Breakfast, could the world's biggest computer and printer maker be buying out the #1 maker of cameras? Former chairperson and CEO of Hewlett Packard and now a Fox Business Network contributor, Carly Fiorina, will be here to talk about it. We'll also be hearing from one of the most powerful owners in the National Football League, the New England Patriots. Robert Kraft talks about building a winner. And he's been called the best fighter in the world, pound for pound, but he has also been a success outside the squared circle. We're talking to Oscar De La Hoya about his business skills. Now, Fox Business Stocks editor Liz McDonald joining us once again from Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey this morning. Liz, what are you watching?
I'm watching Citigroup. They're reporting earnings today. They pre-announced saying that they're going to see a 60% drop in third quarter earnings versus a year earlier. Also news coming out about a high-level meeting with Treasury officials to avert a credit crunch, and it involves pooling about $100 billion in assets tied to the subprime crisis. Along with 9 other banks. Treasury officials marks the second time in about a month that the federal government has stepped in to avert a credit crisis.
Okay, Liz, we'll come back to that story later this morning. Now let's go over to business news headlines from my colleague Nicole Petalides.
Morning, Peter. Morning, everybody. Well, industrial conglomerate Danaher has agreed to buy electronic test and measurement company Textronics at $38 a share, or $2.8 billion. Textronics shareholders will receive a $38 a share in a cash tender offer. That's a 34% premium to its share price Friday, when it finished at $28.34 in New York Stock Exchange Composite Trading. Now, Danaher sees closing on the Textronics buy in the fourth quarter. Well, Hitachi says it has successfully reduced the size of a key component in hard drives. Hitachi says that the discovery will allow computer makers to quadruple the memory of your laptops and music players. Now, the company made the announcement at a conference in Tokyo overnight and says it expects the technology to be available to the public by the year 2011. Now, Hitachi is an ADR. American Depository Receipt. An ADR is a certificate of shares of a foreign stock that trade right here in the United States. Now, Hitachi trades on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol HIT. The stock currently trading around $67 a share. Moving to sports now, the Colorado Rockies are now one step away from baseball's World Series. The Rockies beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-1 last night in that pouring rain. The victory gives the Rockies 3-0 edge in the series. Game 4 is tonight in Denver, and tonight only on Fox, the Boston Red Sox and Cleveland Indians meet in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series in Cleveland. The series tied at 1 game apiece. Well, in Sunday night football, the New Orleans Saints were in Seattle to play the Seahawks. The biggest highlight from the game was the one that almost didn't happen. During a timeout in the first quarter, an NBC camera suspended above the field came crashing down and almost hit some of the Seahawk players. After a short delay, the camera was moved out of the way. Things didn't get much better for the Seahawks after that incident. Well, the Saints win the game 28-17. All right, a quick look at your Fox Business Travelers forecast. Clear skies on the East Coast should make for easy travel there. Showers moving into the Midwest later in the day could force delays at Chicago's airports. Your full forecast coming up before our next break. Well, Dow futures last check pointing to a higher open, up 11, fair value down 14. All right, moving on to the overseas markets now. Prices on the Tokyo Exchange close higher overnight. The Nikkei average up almost 27 points today. Let's see what the European markets are doing. Fox Business London reporter Ashley Webster joins us with the latest. Ashley.
Good morning, Nicole. Yeah, the London market here is trading up, but overall across Europe, kind of a mixed bag. The big news is that oil prices are helping to fuel both the markets here in Europe, and then earlier in the day in Asia, some record postings. BP, Royal Dutch, Shell, all up here in Europe. In Asia, PetroChina, that country's largest oil producer, is up by nearly 10%. BHP Billiton, Australia's largest oil producer, all up. This, of course, on the back of near record prices for crude oil. Here in the UK, the roller coaster continues for Northern Bank. That's the troubled bank that was bailed out by the Bank of England last month. Richard Branson's Virgin Group has made a bid for that bank, but Credit Suisse today saying there's a significant downside risk to that deal, and as a result, the stock is off by about 20% today. The euro also continues to gain ground against the US dollar, the Japanese yen, and the British pound. The euro now at 142.41 at last trading against the dollar. That's bad news, of course, because the European community wanting the US dollar to get a little more strength because it's really adding fuel to an already hot economy in Europe. And put this under the wish I had this stock file. I wish I had stock in British beer. England's soccer and rugby teams had big wins over the weekend in some big sporting events. An estimated 33 million pints were downed by an estimated 9 million customers at British pubs over the weekend. I worked that out to almost 4 pints per person, and I hasten to add I wasn't one of them. Back to you in New York.
All right,
Nicole.
you didn't contribute to the beer. Did you actually go to any of the games, Ashley?
I watched it on television. The rugby team and the soccer team both had very good wins.
So you had the best seat in the house.
Yeah,
all right,
absolutely.
Ashley, thank you very much. That brings you up to date here on the Fox Business Network. Peter Barnes, back to you.
All right, Nicole, we want to report now that Citigroup has reported 47 cents a share earnings, and that's a 3 cents a share beat. The expectation had been for 44 cents a share, so Citi coming in at 47 cents a share. And let's go back to Eric Bowling and Charles Payne for a little analysis on that. Well, what a surprise. You know, everybody was talking when all these write-offs were announced that possibly the banks would be really conservative so that they might be able to report better earnings. Is that's what's happening? We don't have the release in front of us, but sounds like that may be happening.
That's a few. Earlier in the show, I said that because these numbers have been taken down, we'll probably see a lot of them beaten. But still, keep in mind, 90 days ago, Wall Street was looking for $1.13. So 47, while it's better than the consensus estimate, still isn't that great, all things considered.
Plus, we have this news this morning about now this packaging of all these other bad loans, a $100 billion package that Citi and others are going to try to offload into the market. So that could have maybe have an impact on earnings down the road. Eric, I don't know.
No, it may be a positive impact. They may be buying assets below value, which is typically when 3 or 4 or 8 banks get together and say, hey, well, what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a fund to bail out, to kind of put a calming tone on the market. And that would be probably purchasing some of these distressed credit. It gets really complicated,
Yeah.
guys. But bottom line is,
no jargon.
They're not going to do this because it doesn't make money. They're not doing it because they're being nice about it. What they're doing is they're going to make money on it. This may be a real upside. But again, Citibank, over the course of the last 4 years, has found a way to be worth $50. So if you get to $50 again today based on these earnings, I would say take that money off the table, get out of that stock.
Right, so the stock's right now about 47, 48. So you like it mainly as a trade.
I don't like it at all. I think you
don't
stay
like
away
it?
from it. No, because I think...
Well, versus a long-term investment. I'm saying you think it could go to 50.
Well, we're only $2 away, and you could easily see that in a fairly decent market over the next couple of days. My point is, from there, where do you go? I don't think it has a real lot of upside past 50.
You know when it's going to really take off, the truth is when they get rid of the CEO. I mean, a lot of people think the guy's doing a terrible job. As Eric said, it's been an underperformer for a very long time. Considering their size, you look at Goldman Sachs and you look at Citibank, there's no doubt that somebody's underperforming. They want to cut a lot of jobs. I think once they get rid of the CEO, it probably will go past 50.
Yeah, that CEO, Chuck Prince, he's been under a lot of criticism for what's been happening at the bank. There was a management shakeup last week ahead of these earnings results, and so everybody is watching whether or not Chuck Prince will be able to keep his job over time. We also want to make one quick correction. We reported earlier in the program that Mattel came in at 61 cents a share, and in fact, the estimate was for 70 cents a share.
Right, but it was right. It did come in at 61.
Yeah, but the estimate was 70 cents a share, so a big miss on that.
Huge miss.
A huge miss.
Again,
Okay.
this is another one that could have been easy in centers and winners as a center for maybe the past decade. I remember the old CEO, Jill Berard. They gave her $50 million to leave, even though Barbie's market share went down, just plummeted. So they have been running this company so badly for so long. They've had new competition. Over the last year, it's gotten better, but obviously not good enough to match Wall Street's expectations.
Well, guys, we're going to take a look at some other sinners here in our winners and sinners segment. Billy Joel saying how he would rather laugh with the sinners than die with the saints. Well, we won't be so judgmental here on Fox Business. Sorry, Billy. But that won't stop us from picking some other winners and sinners each and every day. And we call it, as I mentioned, winners and sinners. First up, a couple of American marketing icons giving us a new chapter in the cola wars. And this time, they really went to war. It got physical. Two delivery men for Coke and Pepsi got into a physical altercation outside an Indiana, Pennsylvania Walmart this weekend. After counter-punching each other with verbal barbs for several minutes, the two apparently tried to run each other down with pallets of their products. That should have been interesting. And that's when Pepsi's David Paulina allegedly punched Robert Costco in the face 3 times, breaking his nose and giving him a black eye. Police are still investigating that incident. The Ohio State University and South Florida University, a pair of winners this morning. The rash of upsets occurring each weekend in college football occurred again this weekend. That propelled the Buckeyes and the Bulls to the top 2 spots in the season's initial bowl championship series. Unbeaten Ohio State, now 7-0, is also ranked first in the AP and USA Today polls. And as for the Bulls, they didn't even have a football program until 1997. Talk about a great investment. The top 2 schools in the final BCS standings on December 2nd will play for the national title on January 7th in the Louisiana Superdome. ConAgra, a sinner this morning, coming under fire for the manner in which it recalled salmonella-tainted pot pies. Critics claiming that ConAgra's decision to wait until last Tuesday to recall the pot pies increased the chances that more people would become sick. The delay also opening up the company to greater legal liability. ConAgra issued a health alert on Tuesday and asked stores to stop selling Banquet and some store-brand chicken and turkey pot pies. But the recall did not come until Thursday. USDA investigators still working to determine the cause of that contamination. And finally, filmmaker Tyler Perry, a winner again. Perry's latest film, Why Did I Get Married?, pulled in $21.5 million at the box office this weekend, topping the box office charts. It marks the 3rd time Perry has claimed box office gold for an opening. His 2005 hit, Diary of a Mad Black Woman, debuted with nearly $22 million, and Medea's Family Reunion opened with $30 million in 2006. 38-year-old Perry starred and directed and produced all 3 films. Well, back to Eric Bowling and Charles Payne for more winners and sinners. We've got to talk. I got to take a second to talk about college football here.
That's great.
South Florida. This is a team. I'm a Penn Stater, so this is my passion. South Florida Where did South Florida come from?
Well, they beat a couple of ranked teams, but typically, forget it. Keep your eye on Boston College. They're ranked 3, undefeated, great school. They got a big game coming up. They got Virginia Tech coming up.
That's true. Charles?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if USC can kind of crawl back into this thing. Everyone sort of wrote them off after their first loss after so many years at their home stadium. But if the number 1's the number 2 keep losing every week, they may be back up there.
It's been an amazing college football season. Every weekend, upset after upset after upset. I know my team, Penn State, going to be playing Ohio State shortly here, and I'm really kind of hoping for a nice opportunity to get to the Rose Bowl, maybe. But Ohio State's looking very tough.
They look
very
great.
Tough.
Yeah.
We should let's talk a little bit more about stocks. Back on this Coke and Pepsi thing, is this going to be a black eye for either of these companies? No pun intended.
It might actually help a little bit. This is kind of funny. It's going to bring them back in the spotlight. But kind of interestingly, Coke and Pepsi, consumer stocks, one consumer stock that's really performed well, and Charles and I have talked about this before, McDonald's. Yep. International company. Believe it or not, McDonald's is an international company. They sell more in Europe than they do in the United States. You think of McDonald's, you think a U.S. company. They sell way more abroad, totally. But look, here's a great company that's benefiting from a weak dollar.
Right.
It's clicking on all cylinders, and people, for some reason, want to buy McDonald's.
And we should talk about what the weak dollar does to some of these big multinational companies. You know, we want to stay out of the jargon, but the fact is the weak dollar is good for big multinational companies because it makes their products cheaper to buy overseas.
Well, what it does
also,
is
you convert it. You convert it and you get more. Right. So when you take a euro and you get more dollars for it, you instantaneously, make your earnings go up. It's been amazing for multinationals. Amazing.
Just a tailwind for anyone who's involved in the international trade. All you have to do is really go look at Google, look at Yahoo, find out how much of their sales are internationally, and you automatically know it if you're investing in a stock and it is has a big presence overseas. You're going to get some tailwind on your stock.
And then we do have to remind folks that that's one of the reasons why we look at the dollar all the time, because if for any reason the dollar should reverse and it should start going back up, that is going to have a negative effect on corporate earnings.
It's interesting because the average person out there, I had a guy stop me the other day and say, well, America's becoming a third-rate country because of the dollar. The average person out there takes a nationalistic pride, just like Europeans. I know they were really proud when the euro, started to rock a couple of years ago. The euro's gaining, and now, of course, now they're all pretty upset because their exports are not competitive. So don't fret so much because we have a weak dollar. There are a lot of positive benefits.
It also shrinks the trade deficit as well. With that really weak dollar, it makes that trade deficit go away.
And a lot of analysts have been pointing out the falling dollar, increase in exports has helped to offset some of the drag on the economy caused by the collapse of the housing market as well.
And just real quick, we're going into political season here. There's a lot of talk of barriers and protectionism. People need to keep in mind every month exports go up. We had record exports last month. If we start to tinker with that, it could be bad news.
All right, guys, we have to take a break here. We didn't even get to the Canadian loonie. Next here on Money for Breakfast, a look at the stocks that could help you bring home the bacon. It's our Fox Business Squawk Box. We'll go back to stocks editor Liz McDonald in Englewood Cliffs. That's here on Money for Breakfast.
Hi, I'm John Scher, CEO and founder of Video Professor. I'm the guy that gives away the free computer learning lessons. Well, today I'm here to tell you about a great new lesson that many of you have been asking for. And here it is, how to buy and sell on eBay. And I'll give it to you free. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'll make you the next millionaire selling an attic full of baseball cards, but I can guarantee you that I'll teach you everything you need to know about eBay. And again, I'll send you this lesson free. Now, I can do this because I know that once you try my lesson on eBay, you'll be so satisfied that the next time you need to learn anything about computers, you'll come back to Video Professor for all your computer learning needs. And with over 40 lessons on all of today's most popular computer programs, I know there is more you want to learn. And don't forget, call now and I'll send you eBay or any other lesson of your choice free. And I guarantee your satisfaction, or I'll send you $10. So what do you got to lose? Try my product.
Call 1-800-915-3591.
Tonight, is there anything he can't do? It's the new major business deal that has the financial world buzzing. Virgin Chief Sir Richard Branson tells all. Dave's got it covered on the next America's Nightly Scoreboard.
We are going to go to my colleague Robert Gray in the Fox Business Newsroom for some more on those Citigroup earnings. Robert?
Yeah, we're definitely following this morning, Peter. Citigroup, obviously, we talked about it. The third quarter earnings per share number coming in
47 cents a share. That's what we have so far. That number looks like it's going to beat the estimate from Thomson Financial. That was by 3 cents, 44 cents, the number that Wall Street was looking for. Keep in mind, of course, we've been talking about it. They did pre-announce a 60% earnings per share shortfall just a couple of weeks ago. Third quarter revenue also looks like it's going to come in and beat that average estimate there. You see the stock closing lower on Friday. It's down about 13% so far this year. In fact, it's one of the few members of the Dow Jones Industrials that have not reached at least 52-week highs this year. Also a member of your Fox 50 index as well. So we will definitely be following Citigroup today. Keep in mind, shaking up those executive ranks last week, combining their investment banking and their alternative investment units. So, Peter, we will be keeping a close eye on these headlines. Are continuing to cross, obviously. We'll be keeping an eye on their forecast to see what they say about the current quarter and, of course, what the market looks like for them going forward.
All right, Robert, thanks. We'll be back in touch with you later this morning. Time now for our business squawk box. This is a sampling of stocks that you should be watching to help make you some money today. Fox Business News stocks editor Liz McDonald, out in the hinterlands of northern New Jersey, joins us once again with Eric Bolling and Charles Payne. Liz, what else are you looking at this morning?
Genentech, they're going to be reporting earnings today. And Genentech is a really interesting story. They have Avastin, which is a drug that treats lung and colorectal cancer. They also have Herceptin, which is a drug that treats breast cancer. But getting back to Avastin, Genentech is reporting that they want to limit the use of Avastin for macular eye degeneration. It usually afflicts elderly patients. They also sell this other drug called Lucentis. Lucentis is much more expensive than Avastin. It costs about $2,000 per month. Avastin costs $40 per month. And now guess what? The U.S. government is saying through Medicare, hey, wait a second, you're going to be costing taxpayers $1 to $3 billion more a year if you restrict the sale of Avastin to treat macular degeneration and force patients to use Lucentis instead. It's a controversial issue, and we're going to be following this one closely as Genentech reports its earnings today.
All right, Liz, thanks for that, but stick around here a little bit. Now
Sure.
Back to Eric Bolling and Charles Payne, who just advised me that they don't really follow Genentech, so we're going to talk.
But the biotechs have done great this year, and it's interesting because NASDAQ is up, and it's not being led by the semiconductors, but mainly by other techs, and the biotechs are doing really well. I like mClone, which is a more riskier play, but I will say that that people who are investing in biotechs have to be a little nervous into next year if we get a change in the administration, because we might get what they call generic biotechs.
Right.
Generic versions of these drugs could kill their profit margins.
Yeah. And a stock in the news today, Biogen, Carl Icahn's allegedly interested in buying the company, or at least spinning it off and having it up for sale. So that stock takes off. What I've noticed over the years about these biotech stocks, they're kind of like lottery tickets. You're going to put some money in it, and you're going to hope that either they discover something that cures something, or they get bought out by a Genentech, because they have promising
something.
drugs, or they develop something. Yeah. These are really lottery tickets. And as an investor,
but the bigger names, though, are established. The Genentech is established. In fact, it was the first publicly traded biotech company in the world. But, what's also happening is that larger drug companies are considering buying the biotechs because they have thin pipelines. So the big names, you can have some sort of comfort. It's the guys who have one drug at phase 3 that may or may not make it.
And they burn through cash like crazy, so sometimes they go out of business before they can actually discover that.
And what's interesting about these companies is, there's hundreds and hundreds of these biotech companies, and guess what? Only about 5 of them have ever made a profit. Right. The rest of them have lost billions and billions of dollars. But before we go to our next break, Eric, I know you wanted to talk about Costco for a little bit.
Well, Costco's been a great company. I mean, they call it lower in the food chain, if you will. So you have that higher.
Posco. Did I say?
Well, I can talk about either one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was Costco. Let's go to Posco.
Posco's even better.
Thank you.
PKX are going to report earnings tonight. It's a South Korean steel company, and really, it's up over 100% since about February. So, in its basis on China's explosive growth. So China grows, they need infrastructure, they need steel. South Korean steel, very close to China. They export into China. Been a fantastic company, and by the way, Warren Buffett took about a 4% stake in that company. He acquired it over the last year and a half. If you don't do anything else, if you're an investor, read Warren Buffett's investor letter every year. It's on the internet. It's very easy to access. Just go to Berkshire Hathaway.
BerkshireHathaway.com.
.com.
Yeah, he has it in
Fantastic reading. You can see all of his holdings. POSCO is one of his favorite holdings.
And see, I'm totally wrong, because when Costco goes to China, it's going to buy steel from POSCO, right?
I'm not sure how much steel they're going to need.
All right, guys. Coming up on Money for Breakfast. Coming up on Money for Breakfast, we have former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina here to talk about that, and for a little preview, my colleague Alexis Glick.
Thank you very much, Peter. Well, that's correct. We have former CEO Hewlett-Packard who's here. She's going to talk to us about a new deal that involves her old company. Also, he runs one of the most successful businesses in the world of sports. Robert Kraft, the head of the undefeated three-time Super Bowl champion New England Patriots. He joins us live from Foxborough. And of course, our Liz McDonald will file her live reports from New Jersey. And we'll also have an exclusive Fox News poll about you and your money. More Money for Breakfast when we come back here on the Fox Business Network.
We're debt free.
You are! We take regular people and completely revolutionize their lives.
The show where cash is king. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
My dad has a major problem with anxiety.
After almost losing my life twice, I made the choice, I'm going to live life.
This overwhelming fear come over me that I'm going to die. How am I going to support my family? How am I going to live like this?
I'm sure if I sit in the front at church, I'm going to have a panic attack.
I wanted to take care of the problem, and I wanted to take care of it now. This is not good. I'm dying. I have a brain tumor. Because I never felt like this in my life.
Are you a worrier? A what-if thinker? What if I lose control? What if I have a disease? What if I'm drinking too much? Do you feel tired, depressed, and overwhelmed? Maybe you've tried therapy. Maybe you've tried medications, and you still don't feel good or feel in control of your life.
I don't have that fear anymore. Instead, I embrace life.
It truly allowed me to free my mind.
How long are you going to live with anxiety? Are you going to let it control you for the rest of your life?
Please call right now for an informative, motivating, free CD that will tell you how you can take control of your anxiety and depression. Call now, and this wonderful free CD could be in your mailbox within a week, offering you hope and help.
I enjoy life now.
I live my life now exactly the way I want to.
It might just help you because it gives you a boost of confidence and to do whatever you want to do.
Thanks be to God and the program from the Midwest Center.
A whole new life is at my doorstep, and I'm going to walk through and I'm going to enjoy it.
There's a healthy way of living every day that will give you more energy, a much happier, more positive attitude, and make your life a lot more fun. Get up, get off that couch, and make this call, and it could change your life forever.
Only 10 minutes left. Call now. 1-800-503-0545. That's 503-0545.
Welcome back, everyone, to Money for Breakfast. I'm Jenna Lee. Topping our Fox Business Morning radar, we have some earnings news to tell you about. Citi is out with its latest numbers. Earnings came in at 47 cents per share, with revenue hitting $22.6 billion. That tops expectations. However, the company's chairman and CEO, Charles Prince, says it was a disappointing quarter with significant decline in the fixed income business. They took about $1.56 billion in mortgage-related losses. Also on the Fox Morning radar is Mattel. Mattel is also out with its latest earnings report. Numbers came in lower than expected at 61 cents earnings per share. Analysts were hoping for at least 70 cents per share. Now, the toy maker, as we all know, was caught in the middle of the recall of Chinese toys because of lead concerns. Shares of Mattel, ticker symbol MAT, will start the trading day at $22.45. And keep an eye on shares of Biogen Idec. The company is up for sale. The board authorizing management to look into buyout offers for the biotech firm. Biogen Idec says there are already some interested parties, including famed billionaire investor Carl Icahn. Biogen Idec trades under the ticker symbol BIIB and is already getting a boost in pre-market trading, up about $7 to $77 a share. All right, Peter and Alexis, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Jenna. Coming up next on Money for Breakfast, much more, including my colleague Alexis Glick joining me. Stay with us.
you get at Scottrade besides $7 trades?
I get Dow Jones news for investors, free streaming quotes, and research I can really use.
That's why we're here.
Paul.
Oh, hey.
Here for your mortgage.
Actually, I'm using LendingTree instead.
Oh, you are? Why?
Well, they have banks competing, so their rates beat the national average.
We've been your bank for years. You can't just walk away.
Oh, I'm not. Since your bank is part of the LendingTree network, you can compete over me too.
What?
And I want you to know, I'll be pulling for you. Good luck, buddy.
Join the 20 million people who use LendingTree. When banks compete, you win.
Why do investors who try Scottrade stay with Scottrade?
They don't care about merging or selling out. They care about customers like me.
Copy that.
Tonight, debt disasters. Say goodbye to your money woes and gain financial control. Dave has the answers to get back in the game. Advice that's always on the money. It's about money, plain and simple. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business. Tonight, as the Republican debates heat up, this GOP hopeful sets the record straight. Mitt Romney's big plans for the presidency. Don't miss an exclusive interview with the presidential candidate on the next Cavuto.
Good morning. Today is Monday, October 15th, 2007, and welcome to Money for Breakfast. I'm Alexis Glick.
And I'm Peter Barnes, and a lot going on today. Everybody's running around for some reason.
Yes, today is such a special day, and we want to thank all of you for tuning in. We've worked quite some time at this thing called the Fox Business Network, and hopefully we'll live up to your expectations.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot excited and planned for you today.
Yeah, it is a very historic day
That's
today.
right.
You know?
Let's tell people about October 15th.
Well, it was the day of the debut of I Love Lucy on CBS in 1951. That's what everybody's excited about, right?
That's right.
Right.
So here's Lucy and here's Ricky.
All right.
Let's hope not.
Okay, Lucy.
All right, coming up later on Money for Breakfast, I had a chance to sit down with Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. She'll give us the inside on her economic plans. And we've got the bright lights of the big city in Times Square all morning. We're going to take a look at the explosive growth in outdoor advertising.
And later we'll hang 10 with skateboarding legend Tony Hawk. He's here to talk about the video game business, his new title, Proving Ground, and the Tony Hawk mega brand. And we'll have these stories and a whole lot more coming up in the next few hours. But Alexis has this morning's top story. Alexis?
All right, thanks very much, Peter. Hewlett-Packard is said to be considering a merger with Kodak, a move that could rock the digital imaging universe. Joining me more on this story is former HP CEO and current Fox Business contributor Carly Farina. Good morning, Carly.
Good morning, Alexis. How are you doing today? And congratulations on the launch of the new channel and the new show.
Thank you so much. We're so excited to have you as our first guest. So let's get started here. The Financial Times is reporting that your former company, Hewlett-Packard, is eyeing Kodak for a takeover. How exactly does that fit strategically with the company and what it's doing for consumers?
Well, of course, I'm not there anymore, and I do think it's worth reminding people that this rumor comes up on a fairly regular basis. I think it does so because Hewlett-Packard and Kodak had a joint venture together for some period of time in providing digital printing of photographs in retail space. As well, in the 1999-2000 timeframe, HP and Kodak had a number of discussions, and there's some logic to the combo. I have no inside knowledge as to whether anything is really going on this time, but I think certainly since the 99-2000 timeframe, Hewlett-Packard is a much stronger company because of its merger with Compaq, and Kodak is frankly a much weaker company because it's had difficulty adjusting to the new realities of digital photography versus its traditional photography business.
And Carly, many people in both on Wall Street, I think in journalism, credit you for much of the success of the turnaround at Hewlett-Packard. Your successor, Mark Hurd, has focused largely on software buys since 2005. Why possibly go hardware now?
Well, as I say, I don't have any inside knowledge that he is, and I certainly think that it appears to me as though Mark has been executing a strategy that had been in place in Hewlett-Packard for some time, which is to focus principally after the Compaq merger on services and software. And so Kodak has made a move to try and compete directly with Hewlett-Packard in the digital printing business. My own view, frankly, is that Hewlett-Packard can beat Kodak in that business. They don't need to buy them, but I think time will tell.
You know, as a marketing and business expert, Kodak has come out and said that they will not continue to do their level of, of branding and franchising out there in terms of the Olympic Games. They're saying they won't do it until after Beijing. What do you think is behind such a major marketing move?
Well, I think a couple things. First, I think that announcement says something about Kodak, but I also think it says something about the Olympics. Sponsoring the Olympics is a hugely expensive move for any company. It's upwards of $200 million. And in the new era, that investment is not as proven as it used to be. You know, there are many other ways to reach consumers besides television viewing of the Olympics. And so I think one of the things the International Olympic Committee has to be thinking about going forward is, what is their business model? How do they attract the right kinds of sponsors in a new digital age? I also think Kodak is, of course, a weaker consumer brand than it was 10 years ago. This is a big investment, and I'm sure they're looking to build their consumer brand in perhaps more cost-effective ways going forward.
Carly, your book, Tough Choices, was released a year ago. It's still going very strong. Why did you decide to write that book?
Well, you know, in some ways, it's the same reason that I have decided, and I'm quite pleased to be a regular contributor to Fox Business Network. Of course, I was telling my own story in Tough Choices, but I was also looking to make the world of business more accessible to people. I think business is incredibly interesting, incredibly fun, and incredibly important. And yet it's sometimes viewed as kind of a mysterious black box for people who aren't in it every day. I think the role of Fox Business Network is to make the world of business more fun and interesting and accessible and exciting for Main Street America. And that's a good bit of why I wrote Tough Choices as well.
Just quickly before we have to go, Carly, everybody wants to know, you were quoted in the Wall Street Journal as saying you might seek out a possible political career down the road. Is there something you want to announce with us now?
No, it's definitely not something I want to announce with you now. I'm very excited and happy with a whole range of activities, and so we'll just leave it at that.
Including being here with us.
Exactly.
All right, Carly Fiorina, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Peter.
Senator Fiorina has a great sound to it. All right, as part of Fox Business at our launch here, we've put together something called the Fox 50, a consumer-friendly index that includes the largest American companies and many of your favorite brands. And that's one of the newest elements of Fox Business, but Fox has been in the business of business television for 11 years, and joining us now, Senior Vice President and Managing Editor and Anchor of the Fox Business, the highest-rated anchor of Fox Business News, our pal, Neil Cavuto. Welcome, Neil.
Neil, we're just working out the cameras here. We're just,
I'm watching it. The two of you look like a wedding cake.
Geez.
Looks good.
Okay.
We're so excited to have you here this morning. How do you feel?
Well, I think we're all in need of sleep, is what we're in need. But no, it's good. It's finally happening. So kinks and all, we'll work it out.
All right. The Fox 50. What's that?
Well, they're all food stocks. I picked them out, and it just sort of the stocks that are relevant to folks. I think that's important and gives people a good idea of what's really going on. It's sort of like that old idea, what moves people at home? So you'll have some prominent food names in there, you'll have some prominent drug names in there, which could come in handy on a day like this. And just something that is tangible and useful for people.
And these are the brand names that people recognize, and it's the old adage in investing, invest in what you know.
Well, it's also know what you know and know what's familiar. You know, the old Peter Lynch line, he invested in Pier 1 because he saw the parking lot was crowded. Mm-hmm. And I think that is something that we're always going to keep in mind. Remember what average folks remember.
Neil, what can we expect from your show?
I don't know yet. Apparently, we have to.
How many more
I've got
hours to go?
Wait,
I've got till 6 p.m.
Yeah,
but,
Neil says, I have a show.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's in keeping, as you guys are trying to do here. I think early this morning, what we're trying to do is, I think the key is if you don't forget your audience and you remember your audience and you talk to your audience. Now, you guys know a lot of big words. See, I don't. So I appeal. I think if you're just clear and to the point, people will remember that. And I love, as we all do, we'd love to get brokers and hedge fund managers watching. That's great. But you really want to expand, if you pardon the food analogy, the pie. And I think we can. I think that's what's crucial.
And we should tell people that you will continue to have your show on Fox News at 4 o'clock, right. Your World, and then you'll do another show
right
after.
The men's room was also a mess. I cleaned it up, and it's looking better.
Just a couple things to do today.
A couple little things.
Make sure we don't run out of paper towels in the men's room, too.
Done,
right,
Peter,
good.
done.
All right,
thanks so much, Neil.
Thanks.
All right. And now we'd like you to introduce you to another member of the Fox Business Money for Breakfast team. Liz McDonald is our new stocks editor, and she's checking out America's Business Morning right now. So, Liz,
that's right.
Liz, where are you?
I'm out in the woods here in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. There's a lot of government-looking kind of buildings, and I think we heard a cow mooing in the distance. But it's hunting season, as we noted earlier, out here in Englewood Cliffs, and I had heard that the peacocks are in season, so who knows? I'm kidding, I'm joking. Hey, what we got for you this morning is a new opinion poll out from Fox News Opinion Dynamics, and it's something we're going to be talking about all morning. It's some really, really interesting results about how people feel about the economy. They're actually feeling a lot worse about the economy. 32% of our poll respondents said, the economy is good. That's down from 42% last year. And, that's in terms of how many people are saying that the economy is fair or poor, it's up at 66%. That's versus 57% last year. So people aren't feeling so great these days, you guys.
All right, Liz, well, we'll be coming back to you for more on Money for Breakfast.
Delighted.
All right, thanks.
I may be bringing you some farm fresh eggs out here from Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, and some pie from a farm stand up the road.
Do peacocks lay eggs? Anyway, all right, Liz, thanks. Over to Alexis now.
All right, thanks very much, Peter. This morning, Mattel announced third quarter profits and sales that are higher than the same period last year, despite 3 recent recalls of Chinese-made toys due to lead paint. But will these recalls catch up with Mattel in the next quarter? Joining me now is editor-at-large of TheStreet.com, Aaron Task, and Dan Eikenson, Associate Director of the Cato Center for Trade Policy Studies. Good morning, gentlemen. Let's start with you, Aaron. They have witnessed 3 toy recalls due to lead paint and poisoning. How did this affect earnings?
Well, it was a pretty bad quarter, really, and I think the surprise is that they took a $40 million charge, which sounds kind of small given the size of the recall, and they missed expectations by 9 cents. So there were other things going on than just the recall. I mean, the sales for Barbie worldwide were down. They call their other girl brand, which is Polly Pocket, was down pretty big. And so I think Mattel has problems in addition to this recall. Like, people just don't want to buy the toys that they're making.
Dan, let's talk about this for a moment. How much of this is confidence in a name like Mattel? They've been the dominant toy maker. Have investors lost confidence in them?
I think Mattel has an advantage here because they do have a brand name. I think their CEO went out before the public and did his best to reassure consumers that Mattel is doing everything they can about this. There's been a recent spate of recalls of consumer products, of consumable products like food and toothpaste and pet food. But there's every incentive in the world for companies like Mattel to get this right. We don't need more regulation. We don't need trade barriers. This goes to Mattel's bottom line. Likewise, it goes to the Chinese factories' bottom line. They need to get it right if they want to be in Mattel's supply chain.
Aaron, do you agree with that? Because, if you're a parent at home and you've owned a Mattel product, you're thinking about it now. I mean, I have 3 young boys.
Right.
I walk in the store now when I'm buying gifts for other children. I'm thinking, am I getting a product that might be dangerous for another child?
Right. I mean, Mattel does have great brand awareness, but now the awareness is for bad things, and it is a problem. I have a 6-year-old daughter. She loves Barbie, and she wants more Barbies. But now I'm going to think twice about whether or not that's the toy I want to get for her or her friends for their birthday parties. And that's the big risk for Mattel. I mean, I think the good news for Mattel is that all this happened in the third quarter, which means they have an opportunity to get it right in time for the holiday shopping season. But if they don't get it right, I think Robert Eckert his job could be in danger here.
What do you make of that? Do you believe, Dan, that Eckert and Mattel have done enough, have calmed consumers' fears as it relates to these toy recalls?
I think the fourth quarter will tell. I mean, that's the real big buying season, the holiday season. I'd add that I have 3 kids as well, and the lead issue is something that is serious. Cutting corners like that is not necessary to have a beneficial relationship with Chinese factories. I think they're doing a decent job, but ultimately, the consumers will render the verdict here. We don't need more regulation imposing costs on businesses across the spectrum, across the states. We don't need new trade barriers. It's almost like corporate social responsibility here. I mean, that's a dirty word in business circles, but Mattel has every incentive in the world to make sure that their brand name is in good shape, and they're going to spend money to make sure that they do that.
You know, Aaron, before we go here, China is the world's largest toy manufacturer. They export $22 billion in toys last year. That's about 60% of the world's total toy manufacturing. Is there an issue with China in general? Should we be nervous?
Right. Well, the most amazing part of this whole story is that Mattel apologized to China, saying that this isn't China's fault, this is Mattel's fault. And you have to imagine what were the conversations going on behind closed doors where the Chinese said, do you want to continue making toys in China? If you do, you better help us save face here, because the Chinese government has a lot of pull over companies that manufacture in that country. And so you're seeing Mattel maybe the first company to feel the effects of that, of how when you have to deal with the Chinese, you're playing ball on their territory, they're going to tell you what to do.
Well, I'm sure this story is not going to go away. We'll be talking about this for months to come. Aaron, Tass, Dan Ikinson, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, I just want to make sure if you didn't see earlier, that Mattel reported earnings of 61 cents today. That was short of the 70 cents a share that the street was expecting. Aaron mentioned that just briefly. There's a whole lot more coming up this morning on Money for Breakfast, including my interview with Hillary Clinton. And we'll head out to Times Square to check out $1 million car. That's right, $1 million car. There's much more coming up on Money for Breakfast in just a moment.
Where you go in life is up to you. There's one airline that can take you there. United. It's time to fly.
Deals don't always get done during the day. We're talking business at happy hour.
Let's go.
Get fired up with a shot of Cody and Rebecca.
Leave your work at the office.
And get what you need to know served up straight. A finance show unlike any other. Taking you outside work, giving you an inside look with real talk.
Tell me what's really going on.
Helping you make the most of your money.
Handle your business at the bar.
On the show that brings the scene to you.
And trust me, you guys, you're going to
join the club. It's where you want to be after work. Happy Hour on Fox Business.
Democrats are scrambling today to try and override President Bush's veto of a bill that would expand the state children's health insurance program. Joining me now for a closer look at the veto and what it may mean for the next election is Rick Lazio, former Republican congressman from New York, and Lisa Caputo, a former press secretary to then First Lady Hillary Clinton. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Do we believe that they'll get the necessary votes to override the veto?
Oh, I think the Democrats are going to work it and work it hard. I think you have to remember a couple of things. One is that the health care issue is traditionally a Democratic issue, and you have big business being very concerned about soaring health costs. You also have two Republican senators, very prominent Republican senators, Chuck Grassley and Orrin Hatch, really, I think, playing a pivotal role here. So I think the Democrats are going to take as much time as they possibly can to scramble to get the votes.
Rick, do you think they get the votes? I mean, we are starting to hear Nancy Pelosi in particular out yesterday on a lot of the Sunday morning shows saying, well, we may not get it, but we're going to come up with some agreement. Why are we not helping the children? Where do you think this thing shakes out?
I think they get the votes for the override in the Senate and the House, it's much dicier. And it's a huge opportunity for both parties, both philosophically and politically. Philosophically, Republicans are saying, in this case, you've got more than half or 2 million people that are projected to be insured by this new public program that are already insured with private health insurance, and so you're displacing private health insurance. Democrats are saying, yeah, but there's a lot of people here who need to have access to health insurance. They're working class people. They need that help. Second, politically, Democrats, I think, are anxious to have this veto fight because it sets up them as protecting low-income children. And they like the positioning, knowing that most of the media attention, if there's going to be a series of vetoes, will be on this one as a tee-off. For Republicans, this is a way to rally their base around fiscal discipline. And so what happens on S-chip could well be very impactful about how well they're going to be able to manage the spending bills, the 12 spending bills that are going to be coming up, and the 08 budget more broadly.
Remember, Alexis, 72% of Americans want this. They want this. The other thing to remember is the reason the president vetoed this is because there was going to be a tobacco tax, and that plays, right into, I think, the 08 presidential race, and the Democrats not wanting to cede ground here and, fighting for America's children.
We should mention for the viewers at home the tobacco tax that you talked about, which is raising taxes on cigarettes from 63 cents up to $1. Right. Right now we're talking about a $30 billion difference between what President Bush is calling for and what many of the major Democrats are calling for. Is there a middle ground? Is there a point where, okay, an override doesn't happen, but we can meet halfway?
I don't think, honestly, in an election year, this is all politics. I don't see the Democrats ceding any ground to a compromise unless they feel that the right amount of children will be covered by this bill.
Rick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think a compromise is in the works. I think we spent $40 billion on this program since 1997. Bush is saying let's add another $5 billion. Democrats are saying let's add $35 billion. They need probably about $15 billion to make sure that nobody loses their current health insurance. So my guess is there'll be a compromise. My guess is it might be a little closer to where the Democrats are than where the president is, but I think there'll be a compromise.
Just before we go, we do need to mention the bailout being orchestrated here in large part by Washington, D.C. with some of the major banks, a $100 billion bailout for mortgages and loans and for all those assets that have been difficult for the banks to handle. What do you make of this?
Only what I see in the papers this morning, so I don't know if we can say anything more about it.
Anything, Lisa?
Ditto that.
Yeah, you too.
I just saw it in the paper before we walked out onto the set, so grab us next time.
Okay, we'll follow you guys up on that. All right, well, let's send it over now to Jenna for a look at this morning's headlines.
Good morning, Alexis. Good morning, everybody. And here's a look at the business of your world. A new trinity to speak of today. Citigroup, Bank of America, and JP Morgan Chase appear to be combining forces. The trio planning to create a fund that would buy as much as $100 billion of mortgage-backed debt. Now, that's according to today's Wall Street Journal. The Journal is reporting the plan could be announced as early as today. Also, Citibank posting earnings of 47 cents per share on revenue of $22.6 billion. Now, that was above expectations, but CEO Charles Prince called it, quote, a disappointing quarter. And taking a look here at stock futures, they've drifted lower following the Citigroup report and the Mattel earnings. Futures also being held in check by a continued rise in the price of crude. We talked about that earlier this morning. It's trading up another 0.6% at above $84 as crude forges again further into record territory. And here's a story for all you car lovers out there. Motor Trend magazine has selected the 2008 Mazda CX-9 as its sports utility vehicle of the year. The magazine's editor-in-chief, Angus McKenzie, said tests showed the CX-9 was, quote, arguably the most enjoyable sport utility to drive, and a great reminder that SUVs can be as exciting as any car. All right, the award from a field of 11 finalists is to be featured in the magazine's November 6th edition. And Verizon Wireless users, are you ready to rock? Verizon and Led Zeppelin announcing a partnership today. Verizon will be the first wireless service provider to offer songs, ringtones, wallpapers, and other media from the legendary rock group. Full song downloads will be available on November 13th. No prices have been announced. All right, here's a quick look at your Fox Business Travelers forecast. Clear skies on the East Coast should make for easy travel there. Showers moving into the Midwest later in the day could force delays at Chicago's airports, and the same is true of the Pacific Northwest. Southwest, where stormy skies will threaten business travel for today and as well as tomorrow. And finally, look at sports here. The Colorado Rockies are one win away from reaching the World Series for the first time ever. On a cold, rainy night in Denver, the Rockies beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-1. They lead the best-of-7 National League Championship Series 3-0. And tonight, only on Fox, the Boston Red Sox and Cleveland Indians meet in Game 3 of the American League Champions Series in Cleveland. The series is tied at a game apiece. Also, the New England Patriots remaining undefeated yesterday, routing the Dallas Cowboys 48-27. We'll have Patriots owner Robert Kraft with us in just a bit to talk on money for breakfast. All right, that's what's happening this morning. I'm Jenna Lee. We're going to go out to Times Square to Peter Barnes. Peter, are you there?
Hey, Jenna, through the miracle of television, I am now at the crossroads of the world here in Times Square. And man, I've got my favorite segment of the show this morning. This has been called the fastest, most powerful, most expensive street legal car in the world. A supercar to end all supercars, the Bugatti Veyron. Did I get that right, John? Veyron. Made by Volkswagen, but we'll get to that. This thing goes up to 250 miles an hour. I think it's 0 to 60 in about two and a half seconds. Good luck getting a ride in it from the studio to Times Square. I had to run over. And Bugatti's chief executive officer, John Hill, is here to show us the ride. John, thank you for coming this morning.
Thanks you for having us.
Well, okay, I can just ask you a question. So how much does it cost?
In U.S. terms, it's about $1.6, $1.7 million.
And how many do you make?
We're going to make a total run of 300. Production runs about 80 a year.
Okay. Interview's now over. Now I'm going to get in the car. Okay. I'm sorry, Chuck. Come on with me. Thanks for being a great sport. We're going to try and make sure we don't get killed here walking along the curb. But I have been waiting for this how long have we had this book? Like 3 weeks? I can't wait for that. Okay. So John, make sure that I don't, do anything wrong.
Okay.
I'm gonna get in the car. I hear the bells ringing.
Now the key is in it.
The key is in it, so
and you're already turned. All you have to do is push that start button.
Just push this start button here?
Yes. Turn the key.
Turn the key.
There you go.
Ah, there it is. All right, it wasn't off. Now I'm going to start it. I guess it isn't starting yet.
Maybe you didn't turn it all the way.
Didn't I turn it all? All right.
There.
Anyway. Well, it isn't starting for me.
Okay.
All right, we'll talk about the features,
about
John, while I'm trying to get this thing fired up.
Okay. It's a 1,001 horsepower, 16-cylinder engine with 922 pounds of torque. And you can see here you have a gauge indicating the horsepower that's being used at the time, all the way up to 1,001. As you said, 0 to 60 in under 2.5 seconds. But even more impressive is you can do 0 to 60 and back to 0 again in under 5. The brakes on this car are even more impressive than the engine. Yeah. Ceramic carbon fiber, and the car stops on a dime.
Gas prices are high and gas mileage is a big question, and I know it's a $1.5 million car, but I want to make sure I'm not, just wasting money on gas. What's the gas mileage?
Actually, it's 6 miles per gallon in the city.
Yeah, 6 miles per gallon?
16 on the highway.
Right, and if you have to ask, you shouldn't buy the car. Yeah. All right, and you said the car again is 1.5 million?
$1.6 million.
1.6 million. All right. Well, that's it here from Times Square. Much more to come on Money for Breakfast, and I'm going to try and get the car started during the break.
Fox Business is business news for everybody.
With a team you can trust.
I'm going to do things you've never seen before.
The Daytime Block. More than just numbers. Only on Fox Business.
Fox College Sports has the recipe for the ultimate college reunion. Start with over 900 live NCAA events. Add your favorite conferences like the Pac-10, Big 12, and more. Toss in news from around the NCAA. And garnish with the hottest coaches shows. This is the place where college never ends. To order Fox College Sports, call 1-877-2-GET-FCS.
This Friday, the greatest sports movies of all time are going down.
That's on me.
This fall, the producers of Wedding Crashers, tackle sports movies.
No one's going home until one of you can knock me down.
The Comebacks, rated PG-13, starts Friday.
Welcome back to Money for Breakfast. I'm Alexis Glick. Time now to check up on the overseas markets, and for that we head to our Ashley Webster in London. Good morning, or should I say good afternoon to you, Ashley.
Well, good afternoon, and just for the debut of the Fox Business Network, the sun has come out in London. So how about that? It's shining on us. It's not shining so much on the markets in Europe right now. It started off good with the oil prices reaching near record levels. The markets responding much as they had in Asia by trading up. But at this hour, the FTSE here in London is off by about a point. The DAX also down a couple of points, and the CAC in France just up by 4. BP, Royal Dutch, and Shell all showing nice profits in early trading today. In Asia, China had its surge on its stock of about 10%. So also BHP, the Australia's largest oil producer, showing some nice profits. Airbus has delivered its first A380 super jumbo jet to Singapore Airlines, but questions still remain about the company, especially those production problems. Also the fact that 20 of the company's top executives are under investigation for insider trading. So remains to be seen how they will do. The roller coaster continues for Northern Rock Bank. That's the troubled British bank that had a run on it last month and got bailed out by the Bank of England. Northern shares are down about 20% this morning after Credit Suisse said that there's significant downside risk in buying Northern Bank. So that's the very latest from London. Back to you in New York.
All right, Ashley, big news there in some of those energy names, in large part due to oil prices. Are there expectations over there like there are here in the U.S. where everybody's talking about $100 a barrel?
Well, that has been talked about. Right now it's trading around $84 a barrel. And of course, that has implications for the price of gasoline, certainly in the United States. But let me put that in perspective. A gallon of gas by conversion here in the UK is $6 a gallon. I know people are complaining about $3.50 a gallon in the US, but it's all relative.
All right, Ashley, one last thing before we go. All the talk here in the United States about this $100 billion bailout of some problem loans with some of the major banks, Citigroup, Bank of America, just to name a couple of them involved. Any sense over there, because there have been their share of problems in the overseas banks, as to what they might be doing to shore up their risky loans?
Well, that's a good question. The Bank of England governor just last week, Mervyn King, saying he doesn't want to reduce interest rates. He said people got themselves into this mess. It's not up to the Bank of England. He's much like the chairman of the Fed in the United States. He says, he can't continue to pump money in to shore up banks who make risky loans. So it has definitely had a ripple effect in this country, but it remains to be seen exactly how that will be handled.
All right. Thanks very much, Ashley. And now we go from London back to Peter Barnes in the middle of Times Square. Peter.
All right, guys. Well, we're back now. I'll tell you what happened with the car later on, but pop quiz. Fastest growing form of advertising outside of the internet? The billboard, the good old-fashioned billboard, one of the oldest forms of media. It has grown into a $7 billion a year business, and the billboard capital of the world is right here in Times Square. And joining me now is a man credited with starting the boom in billboards, Van Wagner CEO Richard Schaps. And Richard, this is it. Now, you started here, what, about 30 years ago in this business?
1979.
Yeah, back when Times Square was a little seedier, but what happened? Nobody had billboards here before, and then all of a sudden, bam?
Well, in 1979, certainly Times Square was at its low ebb. The buildings were dilapidated, crime was at its highest rate, and the areas were certainly prevalent with adult entertainment. Douglas Lee was selling 14 of the 22 signs that existed in Times Square, and of those 14, 12 of them had no advertisers. So very few people wanted to buy it, certainly not Gannett or Metro Media. But Van Wagner had no idea, and I had no idea. And in '79, the average American had no idea who Hitachi or JVC or TDK was. We immediately went to Tokyo, and we started installing big, large neon signs like in Tokyo, but Minolta.
Big digital signs with lots of lights and things like that.
Exactly.
Well,
Suntory, Minolta, TDK.
How does it that you saw this opportunity that and nobody else saw it. I mean, because just nobody wanted to advertise in Times Square because it was so seedy?
Yeah, no American advertiser wanted to really be here. The Japanese have been using big neon brand awareness signs for a long time. They knew the value of it. To plant the flag right in the middle of probably the most recognizable real estate in the world was something the Japanese advertisers immediately grabbed on.
And you did okay with this and eventually ended up selling your company to CBS?
We sold it to Outdoor Systems, which eventually sold it to CBS.
And the economics are simply what? That you have to go to the owners of the buildings, cut a deal with them, and then they put your signs up?
Many years ago, we went to the owner of the building and paid them X amount of dollars to have the sign up. And then we went out and sold it for more and got the profit. At this time, the building owners are far more sophisticated, and most of the deals we work on a commission basis with the building owner.
All right. Richard Schaps of Van Wagner Outdoor Advertising. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Right. Back to the studio. Alexis.
All right. Thanks very much, Peter. I recently sat down with Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton to talk about her campaign, her economic plan, and more. Here's what she had to say. Welcome to Money for Breakfast, Senator Clinton.
Thank you. It's good to talk with you, Alexis. Good luck to you.
Well, thank you so much. All right, well, let's get started. You're leading in the polls. You're leading in the fundraising. How surprised would you be if you did not win the nomination?
Well, I work hard every day and don't take anything for granted. My view of campaigning is that you have to get up every day and work as hard as you can. There's no predicting what will happen until people actually vote, and the votes are counted. So that's how I feel, and I really run as though I'm 10 or 20 points behind because I don't want to leave anything to chance, and I want to reach as many people as possible to try to earn their support.
You know, recently, Senator Barack Obama has come out swinging against you, challenging your candor in particular. How do you respond to that?
Well, I don't, because what I'm doing is running a campaign that is about the future and about the ideas that I think are important to America to get us back on track, both around the world and here at home.
You know, Hillary, if you look at the kind of, Senator Clinton, I apologize, if you look at the talk out there right now, it does seem like it's becoming more offensive. I mean, Barack Obama, Senator Obama saying America needs a leader who will make the right judgments about matters as grave as war and peace, and America needs a leader who will be straight with them. You know, is it going too far?
Well, Alexis, I think that's what elections are about.
We're going to have a lot more with Hillary Clinton in just a moment. We'll be back with more Money for Breakfast.
This program is brought to you by Van Campen Investments. Look for the right lighthouse.
So I've been thinking about the future lately, you know, retirement, and it's kind of confusing because I'm going to need growth, but I'm also going to need income.
I think you need the Van Campen Lighthouse.
Look for the right lighthouse. Van Campen Investments. Call your advisor for a prospectus. Please read it carefully and consider fund objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and other information before investing.
It's just a piece of plastic that lives in your wallet, that pays for stuff like apples and factories and forests and things. It helps make business revolve around the world, giving people and companies in big cities and big villages and little metropolises what they want, what they need, what they care and dream about on a millisecond by millisecond basis. Which, when you think about it, isn't bad for just a little piece of plastic that lives in your wallet and at the heart of commerce. MasterCard, worldwide.
Tonight, trumping the Donald. Can this multifaceted daughter outshine her dad when it comes to her new business? Ivanka Trump tells all. Pull up a stool. It's time for a shot of Gomez and Willard Straight Up. Happy Hour.
Welcome back to Money for Breakfast. I'm Alexis Glick. I apologize for you if you're just watching our Hillary Clinton interview. We will have Senator Clinton's full interview for us tomorrow, but we've got a lot on tap this morning. Coming up, we have everything from corporate earnings to winning football. The New England Patriots cracked some skulls Sunday in Dallas to remain undefeated. Owner Bob Kraft is hoping his team is on its way to its 4th Super Bowl title. Later, we'll talk to Kraft about how he's trying to turn around another struggling football program. And Tony Hawk is in the house. His brand new game, Tony Hawk Proving Ground, hit stores on Wednesday. The skateboard legend drops by to show us a few tricks. But first, let's get our news fix with Jenna Lee. Good morning again, Jenna.
Good morning, Alexis, and good morning, everybody. Taking a quick look at some earnings news today, Mattel reporting a 1% drop in fiscal third quarter profit. That's due to charges related to all those product recalls we've heard about. Net income for the quarter slipped to $236.8 million, or 61 cents per share. Analysts surveyed by Thomson Financial had expected profits of 70 cents per share. Also, Citibank posting earnings of 47 cents per share on revenue of $22.6 billion. But CEO Charles Prince called it, quote, a disappointing quarter. Other major companies releasing earnings this week include Johnson & Johnson, Yahoo, Coca-Cola, Merrill Lynch, Pfizer, and McDonald's. And speaking of McDonald's, they're taking another page from Starbucks' playbook today. The fast food chain announcing it will launch free Wi-Fi service in its 1,200 UK restaurants, making it the largest provider of free wireless access in the country. McDonald's offers Wi-Fi in nearly 15,000 outlets, including more than 8,000 restaurants here in the United States. And financier and corporate raider Carl Icahn may be looking to stir things up at Motorola again. The Financial Times reporting Icahn could make another run at gaining a seat on the board of the electronics giant. Icahn telling the Times if Motorola does not perform up to par, he would seriously think about coming back. Now, Icahn owns more than 70 million shares in Motorola. And here's a quick look at your Fox Business Travelers forecast. Clear skies on the East Coast should make for easy travel there. Showers moving into the Midwest later in the day could force some delays at Chicago's local airport, so watch out for that. And the same is true of the Pacific Northwest, where stormy skies will threaten business travel for today and tomorrow. And finally, in sports, the Colorado Rockies are one win away from reaching the World Series for the first time ever. On a cold, rainy night in Denver, the Rockies beat the Arizona Diamondbacks 4-1. They lead the best-of-7 National League Championship Series 3-0 and will go for the sweep at home tonight. Also tonight, only on Fox, the Boston Red Sox and Cleveland Indians meet in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series in Cleveland. The series is tied at a game apiece. Also, the New England Patriots remaining undefeated yesterday, beating the Dallas Cowboys. We'll have Patriots owner Robert Kraft with us in a little while here on Money for Breakfast. And that's a look at the latest news. Back to you, Alexis.
All right. Thanks so much, Jenna. Up next on Money for Breakfast, we'll talk a little bit about stocks and a little bit about jocks in our Playing the Game segment. That's coming up in just 75 seconds. So stay right here on Money for Breakfast.
What are your future goals in life? Money for the down payment on a new home? Or someday buying what you've always dreamed of? Start investing today for the things you want with ShareBuilder, and we'll match the first $50 you invest. Go to our website now and follow 3 easy steps. For a limited time, we'll match the first $50 you invest when you open your account. Don't put it off another day. Start investing for the things you want, like tuition for your kids' education with ShareBuilder. It couldn't be easier to get going. Invest a little every month. There are no minimums. Open your account today and we'll match your first $50. That's $50 towards whatever you dream of. Build toward the things you want with ShareBuilder. Awarded Forbes.com Best of the Web. This is a limited time offer. Act now and we'll match your first $50. There's an investor in everyone, even you. Investment results vary and are subject to market risk, including the loss of principal. This special $50 TV offer is available for a limited time and only at the website shown.
Tonight, as the Republican debates heat up, this GOP hopeful sets the record straight. Mitt Romney's big plans for the presidency. Don't miss an exclusive interview with the presidential candidate on the next Cavuto.
What do people really talk about at the water cooler on Mondays? Chances are it's either sports or stocks, and in our Playing the Game segment, you can get a little bit of both. So let's get to it. The first quarter of the NFL season is over, and surprise, surprise, the Patriots and Colts are the teams to beat again. Now for a reaction to what's going on in the NFL and on Wall Street, Ron Mitchell is the founder of the Alumni Athlete Network, which helps place athletes and jobs on Wall Street. Ron is also a 15-year Wall Street veteran in investment banking and private equity, and Charles Payne is a Wall Street insider and Fox Business contributor. I'm so excited to have the two of you here to start this morning off. All right, so a quarter of the season is over. What is the biggest surprise in the NFL? Ron.
Well, I think that there's so many surprises. I mean, you can start with the Brett Favre story. The guy is 38 years old, and he's playing like he's a 10-year-old during recess right now. But my favorite story is the 81 story. It's Terrell Owens and Randy Moss. These are two guys that for the last, I don't know how many years, have been in the press for disturbing the team's performance. Today, they are superstars on the field, and you're not hearing any of that other noise.
Interesting, right? Because Terrell has 16 touchdown receptions in 18 games. Some kind of, I think that was the statistic.
Terrell's playing great, but Randy's even better.
Randy's better.
Randy's got more yards and receptions than he had all last year.
Yeah.
Charles, what do you think?
Well, you know, an extension of that would be the New England Patriots story. I mean, just absolutely phenomenal. It looked like over the last couple of years, even though they were a premier team, they needed something, and that something definitely is Randy Moss. So the old guys coming back doing really well, you know, also is a big deal because these aren't, you know, young guys anymore, Brett Favre or Randy Moss. So it's kind of good for the older folks out there to root for these guys. Sort of like the Foreman story, you know, you always root for the older guys.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets people excited because they're the darlings of the business. Okay, let's talk about who makes the best CEO, because you got Belichick and Tony Dungy. They're on fire. Who do you choose?
I think it depends on the company and the situation. If you have some turnaround situation where you need a guy to put his sweatshirt on, get in the trenches, Belichick's your guy. If you want a smoother, more sophisticated global approach, then I'm going with Tony Dungy. He's negotiating some cross-border deal with China.
What do you think about that, Charles?
Well, you know what? Our negotiations with China haven't been that great. We got tainted food, tainted toys, right? You know what I mean? They had the cheating on the currency. So I want to send Belichick in there with his dirty T-shirt on. Listen, Dungy is a wonderful guy, and I love his approach and his religion and how he's. But I think in the corporate world, you got to be cutthroat.
You need Belichick to crack the whip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what CEO would make a great coach?
I think Stephen Jobs. I really do. He prowls around on stage, you know, just like an NFL coach, and he has the innovation. He reminds me of Bill Walsh in terms of always something innovative in the pipeline. I think he would be tremendous, and obviously he's really hands-on.
What about you?
Well, look, I love Steve Jobs, but I've never seen him throw a football before. And so there's a couple of guys out there.
He throws it better than any CEOs of the Fortune 500.
Well, I'll tell you, Jeff Immelt, CEO of GE, is a former Dartmouth football player.
We got a lot of former athletes who are CEOs, right?
Absolutely. You have the Secretary of the Treasury, Hank Paulson, who's a former football player as well.
All right, let's talk about NFL sponsorship, because the sponsorship in the NFL is explosive. Revenues growing 10% over last year. What is the bottom line for companies who choose to be sponsors of the NFL?
Well, it's a big ticket to be a part of it. I mean, Pepsi has spent, I think, upwards of $1 billion across its brands, Pepsi, Tropicana, Gatorade, to be a part of the NFL. But I tell you, it's worth it. The NFL, in a lot of different rankings that you see, is a top 3 brand in America in terms of recognition. And that will drive revenue, and that will drive the stock price.
Right. And not only in addition to that, they give you the eyeballs, but the NFL is really serious. Earlier this year, there was a big controversy because they were making the photographers wear logos on their jackets of their sponsors. You know what? The sponsors didn't even ask for that. So it was sort of nuts, but the NFL goes that extra mile to make sure if you're going to sponsor them, you're going to get a big bang for that big buck that Ron was talking about.
Well, we hear always about the Super Bowl ads, and it is the biggest game in town right now. All right, stock picks of the week. Mr. Ron Mitchell, what do you like?
Well, just like the NFL growth is going to be global over the next few years, I'm going with a company, NII Holdings. They are a telecommunications company with big presence in Latin America, Brazil, and Mexico especially, and there's a ton of growth there.
That's a new one. I haven't heard of that one.
I'm going to go with one you probably never heard of either, Google.
Oh yeah, listen, that puppy. You're picking it now, actually, even at its price.
I recommended Google again on Thursday at 3 o'clock to my clients, and we got in almost at the low. It's up. We're already up 30 points, but here's the deal. There's some risk to it.
They're supposed to report this week, right?
They report this week. You're talking a stock pick of the week. So if they do beat, and you know what, Google really doesn't care about beating, but if they do beat and they bring the hype, then this could be up at 50 points this week. So I think it has a great chance of being the stock of the week.
All right. I just should ask, call me crazy. Is there a reason why they're not splitting the stock?
You know what? Berkshire Hathaway never split it. You know, split sometimes can be a sort of a scam to entice investors into a stock that they may not otherwise want to buy. Even people I know who won't buy a $20 stock because they think it's too expensive will buy Google.
All right, Charles Payne, Ron Mitchell, it was such a pleasure having the two of you. And we're going to, rate you week to week on your performance, You don't measure up, you're not coming back.
Hey, we're sports guys.
All right, guys. All right, Peter, now it's the time for our daily visit to Medialand.
Thanks, Alexis. Remember the days when .com names were the way to a fast fortune? Well, they may be back. With expectations as high as $10 million, the internet domain name WallStreet.com failed to meet its reserve price at an auction on Friday. This leaves porn.com as the most expensive domain name sold this year. Is Wall Street no longer a big draw? Joining me now is Monty Khan, co-founder and CEO of Moniker.com, the company that ran the auction on Friday. Monty, welcome.
Hi, how are you doing?
All right,
nice to be with you.
WallStreet.com was speculated to go for about $10 million. What do you make of the sellers not even getting their reserve of $4 to $5 million?
Well, actually, WallStreet.com was sold originally in 1999. Actually, I was involved in the original sale of the domain name for $1.03 million. It was the first time the domain name sold, a domain name sold for over $1 million. It actually sold again 2 years later for $2.3 million and then received a $3 million bid on the floor on Friday. So it has increased in value, and the domain name is still for sale in our silent auction, which continues through Thursday. So we actually have expectations that there will be interested parties in the domain name by many Wall Street people.
In the silent auction, has the bidding gone above that $3 million yet?
Not yet, but there are several Wall Street investment firms that are very interested in the property, including the one that actually runs your network. WallStreet.com is a very popular name, and many have expressed a lot of interest in the domain name, along with other domain names that we sold on Friday. We sold over $8.1 million in domain names on Friday.
Yeah, how big is this market for domain names?
The market is actually quite big, and it's grown quite a bit. There's two sides of the market. One is called the direct navigation side of the market, which is the traffic that's generated from domain names, from people typing in domain names into the URL line. And that's about $1 billion industry right now. It's worth actually 15% of all the revenue generated by Google and Yahoo alone. The other side of the market is the after-sales market, similar to reselling a piece of property and getting appreciation for that value. That's another $1 billion predicted to be by the end of 2008. So it's a $2 billion market over the next couple of years, and then projected to double in size again by 2010. So it's quite a significant market.
You said porn.com has previously been the highest selling domain name. How much did that go for?
That went for $9.5 million in cash this year, and we were involved in the sale of that domain name as well. And then, of course, there are several other domain names that sold. One of the big highlights of Friday was computer.com, which sold for $2.2 million.
Now, I see search engines like Google continue to be a regular part of surfing the web. How important is getting the right domain name?
The domain name is actually the most important part of an online business. It's actually the foundation and the reason why domain names and companies are successful on the web. Without Google, Amazon, eBay all having their domain names, they probably wouldn't be as successful as they are today. So picking the right name with the right meaning, having the right brand value is extremely important. And then if you have domain names that are also receiving natural type-in traffic, that's actually much more bang for the buck. So many of the generic single-word domain names and even some two-word domain names that actually have meaning drive a lot of inherent natural traffic, and they are extremely valuable and some of the most important reasons why you should get those types of domain names for your online investment strategy.
Hey, Monty, with all this money flying around here for these domain names, are we going to see Moniker.com have an IPO at some point?
Well, possibly. We've grown quite a bit when we first sold the first domain name in 1999, and we've sold over $100 million in domain names since our inception. So the future is quite bright, and we're really looking forward to the future.
All right, Monty, thanks for joining us. Now let's head back out to Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey to check in with Money for Breakfast stocks editor Liz McDonald. Hi again, Liz.
Here I am. I am here in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, home of a local Unilever office and that other TV station. And breaking news, a man just rode by on a bicycle, and apparently the local 7-Eleven is about to issue a profit warning. They didn't sell enough slushies last quarter. Oh, wait, I'm hearing a microwavable chicken burritos. But hey, we've got more Fox News Opinion Dynamics poll. This one is about who does America trust more? And guess what? Lawmakers are losing to moneymakers. We've got it that, just by a few little white lies, 33% of the country trusts Wall Street, while only 29% trust Congress. As one pundit put it, that's a little bit below the freezing level. But here's a kicker. Nearly a quarter of Americans don't trust either. Surprise, surprise. Back to you.
All right, Liz, thanks. We'll see you again soon later in the program.
Sure.
Coming up on Money for Breakfast, Tony Hawk, Oscar De La Hoya, and much more. Stay with us.
We're talking business at happy hour. Let's go. Get fired up with a shot of Cody and Rebecca, a finance show unlike any other. Happy Hour on Fox Business.
Welcome back to Money for Breakfast. We're taking a look right now at the Astrovision in the middle of Times Square. And it's got the Money for Breakfast animation. Let's see if it has us on it momentarily. Possibility.
Well, there we are.
There we are.
All right. Now, listen, I have to clear up what happened with the car there because this, of course, to me, was the most exciting moment in the program.
And it didn't turn on. Yeah.
And the car didn't turn on because it turns out there are like 4 things you have to do to turn this car on. You have to turn the ignition on, and one of the things you have to do is you have to have your foot firmly on the brake pedal.
Isn't that how
It's
you're
a
supposed to
safety
start?
feature.
You're supposed to do that, though, aren't you? Normally, in the driver's
not in any
manual.
car that I've ever.
No, but in a manual, that's the way you're supposed to. For
When
your
you have
own
a manual
safety.
car because of the clutch?
Yeah. Have you driven a manual?
Yeah, I learned how to drive on a clutch. Hello, but that was in 1958, so I don't remember that. But anyway, that's why the car would not start. So here I have my moment, and then I didn't have time.
Can you go back? Can I just tell
Well, I
you
wanted
that
to drive
in
it back, but
television that happens
I know.
all the time.
I know.
That's television.
I
It's
know.
live.
Live television.
But just tell
had
us
to
how
happen.
beautiful was the car?
That car was spectacular, just spectacular. So I was going to talk to the folks on the second floor about a little bonus if we do well in the program.
If we make it
it's
through
only
these hours.
$1.5 million, and then I could have my little toy. Boys and their toys. There's a nice car.
Leave it at that. We're
Yeah.
not as excited about the car, but that's okay. It's still pretty beautiful.
It's, right, and you looked
Oh,
great
well, it was
sitting
a
in
work-
it, even
it
though
was
you
a work of art.
didn't turn it on.
Let's be honest. The two of us were a little bit more excited about Oscar De La Hoya. What do you think?
True.
And then about
Bob Kraft.
Also
Yeah.
true.
And of course, and not the naked cowboy. Anyway,
That's a secret.
I wasn't supposed to
that's
spill
okay.
that one.
All right.
All right.
Well, we have a lot coming up on the show for you. There's plenty more cooking in the next hour of Money for Breakfast.
Stick around. We have ways of knowing if you don't. What does that mean?
No, we're going to monitor your viewing.
This program is brought to you by NASDAQ, the stock market for companies that move life forward.
I know the numbers are up, but I think we're taking a big risk here. Let's take one team and dedicate them to the Delbridge account. Good. Get on it.
Trade up. NASDAQ. Trade up. NASDAQ.
Tonight, trumping the Donald. Can this multifaceted daughter outshine her dad when it comes to her new business? Ivanka Trump tells all. Pull up a stool. It's time for a shot of Gomez and Willard Straight Up. Happy Hour.
It's the most traded market in the world, with over $3 trillion traded every day. It's open 24 hours a day, 5 days a week. It's the global foreign exchange market at Forex.com. Trade the euro, yen, US dollar, and other currencies. Go to Forex.com today, set up a free practice account, and try currency trading risk-free. Then when you're ready, just click and trade. Forex.com. Foreign currency trading on your schedule at your fingertips. Go to Forex.com today.
Tonight, Debt disasters. Say goodbye to your money woes and gain financial control. Dave has the answers to get back in the game. Advice that's always on the money. It's about money, plain and simple. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Good morning. Today is Monday, October 15th, 2007, and we're taking a look at Times Square just around the corner. Welcome to Money for Breakfast. I'm Alexis Glick.
Yes, and I was just running over there and running back, and I didn't know that I still had the ability to sprint in me.
Until you did that, but you had a couple fun things to do out there.
I had the fabulous Bugatti car, and then I got to talk about billboard advertising in Times Square. The one thing I didn't mention is the fact that now all this billboard advertising, we now see, 80-foot tall men and women, and basically underwear and things like that. And tourists.
It's the amazing thing about Times Square is the level of billboards, and of course, as you mentioned,
Huge.
much of these big famous digital billboards.
Yeah.
Anyhow, well, coming up in this hour, his team improved to 6-0 with a 48-27 thumping of the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday. Today, New England Patriots owner Robert Kraft joins us to talk about winning in the NFL and in business, Spygate, Steinbrenner, and much, much more.
And there are plenty of new movies at the box office this past weekend, but could they score a touchdown against The Rock? We'll break down the box office scoreboard. And we'll also be talking to the Golden Boy, who takes a swing at the money for breakfast. We'll be speaking with Oscar de la Hoya about the business of boxing. All that and lots more coming up, but let's now go over to Jenna Lee for a look at the latest morning headlines. Hi, Jenna.
Thank you, Peter. Good morning, everyone. Topping the headlines this morning, Citigroup, Bank of America, and J.P. Morgan Chase might be joining forces. The Wall Street Journal reporting the banks have set up a $100 billion fund to buy troubled assets in exchange for new short-term debt. Now, the Journal reporting that the Treasury Department hosted talks over the weekend. The plan could be announced sometime today. Also, Citibank posting earnings of 47 cents per share on revenue of $22.6 billion. But CEO Charles Prince called the quarter, quote, a disappointing quarter at that. All right. Gannett saying today is joining with Tribune Company to publish and syndicate a weekly edition of USA Today outside the United States. Now, Gannett, which publishes USA Today, the highest-selling U.S. daily newspaper, will produce the 8-page broadsheet called USA Today Abroad. It will contain primarily feature stories from the previous week's daily version. Gannett said the first issue will be delivered Thursday to publishers in Israel, Armenia, Mexico, Argentina, and Ecuador. And Verizon wireless users, are you ready to rock? Verizon and Led Zeppelin announcing a partnership today. Verizon will be the first wireless service provider to offer songs, ringtones, wallpapers, and other media from the legendary rock group. Full song downloads will be available on November 13th. And here's a quick look at your Fox Business Travelers forecast. Clear skies on the East Coast should make for easy travel there. However, showers moving into the Midwest later in the day could force delays at Chicago's local airports. The same is also true of the Pacific Northwest, where stormy skies will threaten business travel for today as well as tomorrow. And the Rockies continue rolling, and with one more win, they'll be in the World Series. Colorado defeated Arizona 4-1 last night and leads the National League Championship Series 3-0. Game 4 is tonight. Also tonight, only on Fox, the Boston Red Sox and Cleveland Indians meet in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series in Cleveland. The series is tied at a game apiece. All right, that's what's happening right now. Let's go to the Fox Business Newsroom and Robert Gray. Robert?
Hey, Jenna, thanks. And one of the stocks we are following today is in your Fox 50. We're talking about Citigroup, the biggest bank in the country, out with earnings this morning, coming in 47 cents per share is that headline earnings number for their third quarter earnings, topping the estimate. Analysts on Wall Street looking for 44 cents, so 3 cents better than that. Revenue also coming in above the average estimate there for them at $22.7 billion. A lot of charges. They had talked about this a couple of weeks ago, came out saying that they were going to be hurt, of course, by the credit turmoil over the summer, and said they would have a 60% earnings per share shortfall, and they did indeed have that. Some of the big charges coming from the likes of $1.5 billion from losses from loans and subprime mortgages. They were going to be packaged up and resold off as instruments known as collateralized debt obligations, or CDOs in street parlance there. They also, of course, shook up the executive ranks ranks just last week. Chief Executive Charles Prince has been feeling some heat. One of the worst performers in the Dow this year. In fact, one of the few that hasn't risen to a 52-week high or better this year. The stock down about 13% so far this year. And another stock we're following, of course, is Mattel, the toy maker. We've talked a lot about the recalls related to lead paint and sending it back to those Chinese goods. Third quarter profit down 1%. Alexis, their earnings per share 9 cents below that estimate from analysts on Wall Street. So that stock going to be under a little pressure today. Back over to you.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks very much, Robert. Well, after he bought the New England Patriots in 1994, Robert Kraft vowed to turn his team into champions. 3 Super Bowl victories later, that's just what he did. And on Friday, his alma mater, Columbia, announced that Kraft donated $5 million to their football team. Joining us now via satellite from Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, is Patriot owner Robert Kraft. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Alexis. How are you?
I'm terrific, thanks. So tell us, what was it about your experience as a Columbia football?
Can I just interrupt and say I'm so happy you guys have arrived. I'm a great fan of Rupert Murdoch and Peter Sherman and Roger Ailes, and congratulations on the world of competition.
Oh, well, thank you. We're so excited to have you here today. And of course, we're all kind of pinching ourselves that what we've worked on for quite some time is actually becoming a reality. And we're going to make a lot of mistakes, but the best thing we have going this morning is having you here. And we want to talk a little bit about that $5 million donation you made to your alma mater, Columbia, to the athletic department. Tell us about that.
Well, you know, I think that Columbia has always been in a, excuse me, in a special league in the academic field, and they're second to none in my opinion, and a global brand. But their athletics have left a little bit to be desired, and I think with the leadership now of President Bollinger and Diane Murphy and Bill Campbell, the chair of the trustees, there's a commitment to athletics to bring up the standards at Columbia, and it was an opportunity for me to give back to a school that was great to me. I went there on scholarship, and I sat up there at the field on Saturday, looked out at the GW Bridge and the river and the same field that I played on, and I realized what a great thrill to be able to give back in a small way to a great institution.
Well, as a fellow Columbia grad, I'm very excited about this. I went to school actually with your son, and you know, what do you think you'll do for Columbia football? You think we can have a winning season here or there?
Well, that's the objective. So you were in David's class, eh?
That's exactly right.
Oh, great. You know, in the early 60s, they were pretty good, and we've had some ups and downs since then. But there is a rich history previous to that, and I know that Coach Nerese Wilson hopes to bring that back.
All right, let's turn to what we all know you for. When you bought those Patriots in 1994, the team was dead last in revenue. They were saddled arguably with the worst stadium in the league. What was the biggest key to turning that franchise into the billion-dollar powerhouse that it is today?
The key was connecting with our fans. You know, our fans are off the charts. I sat there on those metal benches. So in November, my backside was sticking to the metal benches. So I know what they went through. And, you know, they were carried for zero on the balance sheet. There was no equity value given to them. And I went out and made a lot of speeches. My son Jonathan helped me do that. We made 70 speeches in the first 90 days. And we were able to make the fans believe in our mission. They partnered with us. And after 34 years of never having sold out the stadium, we sold out every game since we've owned it. And of course, when you have blackouts, that's like a 3-hour advertisement that you're giving up. And so they connected with us, and then we're able to assemble some good people, and good things happened.
Is it, you know, I mean, for anybody who's a CEO out there or who's starting a company, is the key to success or the advice that you'd give them, is that being connected to the people?
That's your customer base, but it's also assembling a good team around you, people who can subjugate their egos to what the common goal is, not being afraid to make mistakes, be bold. I mean, I think the Fox News and business division is a good example of that. You know how you folks operate. You go against the odds, you have mental toughness, and you believe in your mission statement, and you connect with your customers and your suppliers and the team around you and make them feel that excitement and passion that you feel, and they all come along for the ride, and you have a lot of fun. I'll tell you, I got home last night about 2 in the morning, and we had a long trip back from Dallas, but we had a chance to feel that as an organization last night, and then that's what allows us to come up and get going early in the morning and speak to a fellow Colombian.
Well, that was certainly a great victory last night. I will get to Kate Hudson in a moment because I saw her sitting with you there in the booth.
Oh,
but
so you're watching.
Of course I was watching.
That's great.
Let me ask you a question if you don't mind, because you talk a little bit about risk and surrounding yourself with the right team, and everybody in the business talks about Belichick and what he has done for the team. How did this Spygate scandal affect you? Do you feel that you've turned the corner in terms of the perception of the franchise?
Well, I think out of every negative situation, if you manage it properly, you can have positive come from it. And I think that in a way, our team has rallied together in a very special way. It's sort of us against the world, and the results over the last 5 weeks have been pretty special.
That's exactly right. Well, another high-profile owner, George Steinbrenner here on the East Coast, appears to be finally passing the reins of his New York Yankees on to his sons. What kind of impact does that have on sports? You know, people like you who have had very big and dominant roles in the business. What does a guy like Steinbrenner perhaps giving up the reins mean?
Well, he has been such a unique owner and such a force. And, you know, I think with George, it's all about winning. And I think whether people like him or don't like him, they have to respect what he has done. And I sure know there are a lot of Yankee fans out there that line up behind him and do whatever it takes. And we're trying to develop that same passion for winning up here in New England. I'm blessed to have some very capable sons, so they're right here working with me, and I know that they will carry on the mantle when the proper time comes.
All right, Mr. Kraft, you know we like predictions. Just before you go, do you think you can be undefeated this year? Are you headed to the Super Bowl?
Well, we've played 6 of 16 games. I think you could see yesterday, if you were watching there in the third period, you know, Dallas went ahead of us. They have a great team. And I've learned in this business, this is my 14th season, that there's such closeness between the teams. And if you're not well prepared and ready to go on any Sunday, you can be beaten. So we'll take it 1 week at a time.
All right, great advice. Mr. Kraft, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for inviting me beyond on your inaugural day. I'm honored.
Thank you. All right, well, coming up, Intel announces they're ditching TV advertising in favor of the internet. Stick around, we'll have more on that.
Why are more investors moving all their accounts to Scottrade?
I had accounts all over the place. They made it easy to bring them together.
Scottrade's here for you.
Yes. I have this money to invest and I need to rethink my portfolio. Manage risk better, stop chasing performance. What do you think?
I think you want the Van Kampen lighthouse.
Look for the right lighthouse. Van Kampen Investments. Call your advisor for a prospectus. Please read it carefully and consider fund objectives, risks, charges, expenses, and other information before investing.
Why do people love the service at Scottrade?
Because whenever I call, I get my local office and not some faraway call center.
We're here for you.
We're just regular people, and we've been there, done that
I've done stupid, and I know what it feels like to hurt. Personal finance is 80% behavior. It's only 20% head knowledge. Everybody else talks about head knowledge, head knowledge, head knowledge. This is the show that's going to talk about behavior.
Hey, Dave, we're debt-free.
The mission of the show is to take regular people and completely revolutionize their lives. We go through people's underwear drawer right on network TV.
I love it. The show where cash is king. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Love our graphics. Great graphics team working on the show. Tomorrow, Intel is reporting earnings, and when you think about this tech bellwether, you can probably remember at least one of its commercials. But if you want to see those commercials anymore, chances are you'll have to be logged into the internet. Intel says most of its advertising will be online now and not on the tube. For more on that switch, we bring in a marketing expert from Reese & Reese, Laura Reese. Laura, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
All right, tell us what's going on with this switch.
Well, Intel has made a very bold move. They've said and demanded that all of their co-op advertising partners put at least 35% of those advertising dollars onto online media to get the credit back from Intel. And that's a huge jump. I mean, remember, most advertisers are spending less than 10% on online media. So this is 3.5 times that. That's a bold statement.
Does this mean they're going to be off television altogether now?
Absolutely not. Television will always remain a part of their media mix. It's just going to be a smaller part, as it is for most companies. Remember, the buzz from every boardroom to every small business owner these days is, what is the alternative to traditional advertising? What are we doing about the internet? The buzz and speculation about the power of the internet has been very, very strong and very compelling to people to search for these alternatives.
So what is behind this decision, though, at the end of the day? Because as you know, the internet for tech companies probably is more effective. Is that what's going on?
Well, I think there's particular categories where online advertising can be more effective, particularly for very confusing, very detailed things that cost a lot of money. Obviously, things like computers, things like cars, things like houses, things like finance, where you spend a lot of time researching online, and more than likely you spend time buying online. And I think that's the main point here. This advertising becomes kind of like in-store advertising. You're at the place where you're making your purchase, and that's the place you really want to hit people with the advertising. What we really have to remember here is when we talk online advertising, it's not just one thing. There's two separate things. The majority of dollars spent on online advertising are going towards search. And search is very different from traditional display type of advertising that tends to be really much like traditional advertising. It's just on the internet. Search is different. Search is like the yellow pages. Search has been very, very profitable, particularly for Google, and very effective for the advertisers. So whether or not the display type of advertising is going to see the results, I'm not too sure.
But this can't be good, though, for television networks and for newspapers, the traditional advertisers. This can't be good for them.
This is unfortunately not good for the traditional advertisers, because today the buzz isn't about the 30-second ad the way it was in years past. Today, the buzz is all about finding an alternative to get away from traditional advertising. Everybody is cutting and wants to be seen as cutting their traditional advertising budgets because they're looking for alternatives in the belief that those alternatives are going to produce better results. And of course, depending on what kind of alternative you choose, you're going to see different kinds of results. But companies are willing, unlike never before, to try outrageous things. Charmin has a branded public restroom in New York City to try to get its word out about its product. Or, we read yesterday about Nike's running club, really making an authentic connection with consumers.
Okay, Laura Reese, thanks for joining us this morning. Alexis.
At Fox Business, we have a couple of innovations for you, the viewers, to follow business here on TV and online. Joining me now is my friend and colleague, FoxBusiness.com managing editor Ray Hennessy, at a look at some of the new tools. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning.
All right, so tell me what's on FoxBusiness.com.
Right, well, what we wanted to do is there's one thing to provide the news, but there's other things that can help you to use that news a little better, and we've got a couple of innovations that you can find. One is the Fox Translator. Now, this is really exciting. You know, you watch a lot of news, particularly business news, and it can get very complicated. It can get almost wonky. We don't want that to happen here. So what we try to do with the translator is guide you through a lot of the words that you hear and tell you what they mean. For example, if we're talking about something like American depository receipts, up on your screen, voila, can be an explanation of what those things are.
And what are some of the features in terms of the site? What are the kind of stories we'll be talking about?
Well, you know, what we're really looking for is taking a different angle to business. For example, today on the site we have a story about how if you're investing in a company with a CEO who's sort of a daredevil, you know, we saw this thing with Steve Fawcett, how you really have to think about that because it's very important. We have had in history people, because of their personal hobbies, CEOs who have ended up dead or incapacitated, things like that. And so, again, the stories that, you know, no one else is really writing about or talking about today.
And is that how the site gets differentiated from, say, Yahoo Finance and Google Finance and those kind of things?
Right. I mean, you know, think about it. You can find a lot of financial information all across the web. What we try to do is just really focus on the stuff you can't find anywhere else. And that's what's most important to us now.
Before you go, we just want to mention one more time. Tell us a little bit more about Fox 50.
Well, Fox 50 is really great. You know, there's so many stocks. There are more than 6,000 stocks that are out there. We're focusing on the ones that you should know about because they're the 50 largest companies that also represent the 50 largest brands that you use every day. And you think about it, when you wake up in the morning, you go to Starbucks, you put on your iPod, you know, you're part of the market. So this is really your index if you think about the Fox 50. It's what you're buying, what you're using, what you're doing, and that's why we set it up that way.
Yep. All right. Thanks very much, Ray.
Thanks.
We're very excited. Can't wait to see it.
and great job. This guy's been working
This guy
very hard.
has worked a lot of 24-hour days, along with Jeff Macenti and the whole internet team.
No harder than anyone else here. It's been great.
It's been terrific. All right. After the break, Eric Bowling and Charles Payne square off in today's Flip of the Coin. Stay tuned for more Money for Breakfast.
We're debt-free.
You are!
We take regular people and completely revolutionize their lives.
The show where cash is king. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
The following great moment in baseball history is brought to you by The Comebacks in theaters October 19th.
Buckner! What? What's the six-letter word for a tropical fruit? I'm thinking it might be banana.
Sip it.
Could be papaya.
This is the World Series, man. Are you crazy?
Slow roller down to first. It gets through Buckner's legs. New York wins! New York wins!
It's papaya.
Don't miss this and other great sports movie moments in The Comebacks. Rated PG-13.
FSC is your premier destination for soccer with North America's #1 highlighted news show exclusively devoted to the beautiful game.
Good evening and welcome to the Fox Soccer Report.
Our team of hosts comes together each night to give you a daily dose of all the top soccer headlines.
All the highlights, all the stories, and all the analysis.
And expert analyst Bobby McMahon weighs in on the hot issues.
That Liverpool should have got rid of him then. They would have got 10 to 12 million pound from him.
Fox Soccer Report, nightly, only on FSC. Check your local listings.
Welcome back to Money for Breakfast. I'm Alexis Glick, and with me now are Wall Street insiders Eric Bowling and Fox Business contributor Charles Payne. They're set to play today's edition of Flip the Coin. It's our point-counterpoint discussion. Today we'll be discussing the state of retail, good or bad. And Eric, are you going to call heads or tails?
I'll call heads. Wait a minute. Use this one.
Okay,
this is
so
my
stop
lucky
using my
ounce of
fake
gold.
play money from my home. Only Eric would bring me a gold coin.
Yeah.
Okay, so Ed, okay, all right, so Eric, so I'm going to do like heads or tails here. You ready?
There we go.
Okay, you're calling heads or tails?
Heads up front. Right now, heads.
Oh, tails. Payne, it's your choice.
You know what? We've been hearing about the death of the consumer for maybe a decade now. And, you know, this year and this summer we had the R-word recession, so I can understand why even there's a bigger core saying that retail sales aren't going to be great. I think they're going to be really good. I think they were pretty good this summer, and we see some momentum going into the rest of the year.
Well, first of all, did you guys take note of Charles's cufflinks? Those are fantastic cufflinks. Clearly he's spending. Look, people
you
are
can
saying,
get 1 million of these with that coin you just had.
People are saying that, number one, the weather's been mild, so the retailers are going to take a little bit of a hit in this quarter. I think also, Charles, $85 a barrel this morning. We traded over $85 a barrel for oil. That translates into about a $3 gallon of gasoline. You couple that with your home price going down, the value of your home going down, I think people will probably back off for the fourth quarter. I'm not being bearish. I just don't think they're going to spend the way they could.
There's no doubt what
year.
you're saying makes sense. It's the common sense story. But you know what? This has been the common sense story. It was the common sense story last year, the year before that, the year before that. Oil's going up. We've heard it all. What's interesting is Halloween sales are going to be over $5 billion. Just a year ago, 2 years ago, it was almost $3 billion. That's an indicator that people
are eating more candy.
Eating more candy, they're having more fun. And I think people are actually going to start to feel better about themselves after we've weathered this storm.
I think your typical retailer, your clothing retailer, probably get hurt. Your automobile retailer will hurt. A couple of places that you've really done well if you had your money, Blue Nile and online. The online retailers are still cooking. Look what Amazon's done. Look what Blue Nile's done. There's been a couple of great
And Blue
stocks
Nile
going
sells
forward.
diamonds, so people should also know luxury. Luxury's been up over 8% each month this year. That's great. And last month, the big box makers started doing well. I would avoid the department stores if you're looking.
You talk about luxury, you guys get low. That's luxury. Now that's luxury.
You two are unbelievable. Okay, I'm supposed to call the decision here. I kind of feel like it's a split decision because I think you're right. I think retailers do a little bit better, but I do think people are more worried about their bills than ever. They're adding up.
What is it?
Split? The pressure's on. All right, I'm going to give it to Charles Payne.
Oh, thank you.
But I'll take your gold coin.
Oh, yeah, wait a minute.
Hey, I'll take the coin and give it to him, too.
I mean, seriously, like as if he's got shabby cufflinks anyhow. All right, guys, thanks so much. All right, let's send it upstairs right now to Sandra Smith for a look at this morning's markets.
Well, Alexis, this is a story we're having to watch very closely today. This may break at any moment. Citigroup and other banks, including Bank of America, as well as JP Morgan, are discussing a plan to pull together and financially back as much as $100 billion in shaky mortgage securities, as well as other investments. The pool, which would be called MLEC, could be announced at any point today. Citigroup, of course, having a conference call in the next 7 minutes. And Alexis, really what I wanted to touch on here is some of the positives and negatives I'm hearing from people. The positives is that, of course, there's a lot of bad debt out there, and all this will do is provide more benefit and stabilize these markets. The negatives, however, that I'm hearing out there, is, especially from Ben Siegel at Winchester Capital, is that this may not be enough money, and this really may not be the solution to the bigger overall problem. It doesn't address the issue. A lot of people are saying that there was bad underwriting out there and that there was inadequate risk management. So that's really what we're hearing. And of course, we're going to be monitoring that call in the next 6 minutes. Back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Sandra. This will be very interesting to hear what they say on the conference call, because Charles Prince, the CEO of Citigroup, has been out this morning saying that it's been a very disappointing quarter, disappointment in fixed income, and of course a lot of these commercial paper and risky mortgages have been an issue.
And hello, this whole issue was about risk management. All of these CEOs and all these highly compensated people at Citigroup were paid to manage the risk, and they may have to answer for these bad calls in this conference call today with analysts.
And I'm sure we'll be talking for weeks to come now about this $100 billion bailout package and the banks getting involved. All right, well, coming up in just a few minutes, the Golden Boy stops by for some money for breakfast. Boxing superstar Oscar De La Hoya is coming up.
This program is brought to you by Bristol Myers Squibb. Together, we can prevail.
Lynn Redgrave for Bristol Myers Squibb.
I want to die from eating too much chocolate, or from exhaustion dancing the tango. I want to die of laughter on my 87th birthday. But I refuse to die from breast cancer. I want to die from something else.
Your will, our medicines. Together we can fight the serious diseases. Bristol Myers Squibb. Together we can prevail.
Facing a mortgage meltdown. Looking like a great time to refinance.
A liquidity crisis.
Confused by all the mortgage news? Did you know you can get help at LendingTree's free Smart Borrower Center?
No.
No. Would you like to?
Yes, please.
Visit LendingTree.com/smartborrower. We'll help you make sense of it all. LendingTree is committed to helping you make smart borrowing decisions, even if that decision is not to borrow. Take control and go to LendingTree.com/smartborrower today.
Thank you.
Tonight, debt disasters. Say goodbye to your money woes and gain financial control. Dave has the answers to get back in the game. Advice that's always on the money. It's about money, plain and simple. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Welcome to Money for Breakfast. I'm Alexis Glick.
And I'm Peter Barnes. And so far this morning, I'm having a good time.
I'm having a great time too. We have to kind of like squeeze the smile here because this is so exciting. It's nice to actually see it become a reality. And
yeah. We've had about 130 weeks of rehearsals.
Or it felt like that.
And we finally get to get on the air. It felt like that. So we're just very excited to be here this morning. But
all right, well, later this morning, Oscar De La Hoya joins us. The superstar boxer has turned into a superstar businessman. He's running Golden Boy Productions and promoting boxers and fighters around the country. We'll talk to him about the business of boxing in just a moment. And presidential spending will be a topic of conversation this morning. We'll visit with our Washington, D.C. correspondents to get the view from inside the Beltway.
But for now, we're going to jump over to Jenna Lee for another check of this morning's headlines. Jenna.
Thank you, Peter, and good morning, everybody. Here's a look at what's happening today. Ford says it expects to sell its Jaguar and Land Rover brands in the next 2 months, but does not expect to sell them separately. Now, Ford has been exploring the possible sale of Land Rover and Jaguar since June. It sold another luxury brand, Aston Martin, back in March. All of this is part of Ford's strategic review of its global operations. It's just checking out how it's doing business. Now, Ford is also up next for the United Auto Workers Union. The sides should meet sometime soon to hammer out a new labor agreement. Also in the news, Citigroup, Bank of America, and JP Morgan Chase might be joining forces. We just heard about this. According to the Wall Street Journal, the banks have set up a $100 billion fund to buy troubled assets. That's in exchange for new short-term debt. Now, the Treasury Department reportedly hosted talks over the weekend. The plan could be announced sometime today. Also, California, my home state, has banned toys and baby products containing more than a trace amount of a chemical used to soften plastics, a chemical that scientists now say is linked to health problems. Now, the ban is on thiolate, which makes California the first state to impose severe limits on that chemical. Thiolate is used to make baby bottles, soft baby books, teething rings, plastic bath ducks, and other toys, so watch out for that. And here's a quick look at your Fox Business Travelers forecast. Clear skies on the East Coast should make it for easy travel there. Showers moving into the Midwest later in the day could force delays at local Chicago airports. And the same is true of the Pacific Northwest, where stormy skies will threaten business travel for today and tomorrow, so check with your carrier before heading to the airport there. And finally, in sports, the Rockies continue rolling, and with one more win, they'll be in the World Series. Colorado defeated Arizona 4-1 last night and leads the National League Championship Series 3-0. Game 4 is tonight. And tonight, only on Fox as well, the Boston Red Sox and Cleveland Indians meet in Game 3 of the American League Championship Series in Cleveland. The series is tied at a game apiece. And that's what's happening right now. Peter and Alexis, back over to you.
All right. Thanks very much, Jenna. Oscar De La Hoya has reshaped the boxing world, but the sport's future remains in doubt. Here for a look at the state of the boxing biz is Olympic gold medalist and president of Golden Boy Productions, Oscar De La Hoya. Good morning, Oscar.
Hi, good morning, Alexis.
All right, well, you're widely credited as the man who has saved boxing. Do you think you're more valuable in the ring or in the business arena?
Well, I believe with the way boxing business is going today, we have a very bright future. For instance, you have great matchups that are coming up in the fall. You have Floyd Mayweather, who's fighting the biggest superstar from England in December. As we know, Floyd Mayweather is doing Dancing with the Stars now, so he has 2 jobs at hand today. So boxing has a very bright future, and we believe that Golden Boy Promotions can take it to that next level.
You know, most boxers are happy to sign up for the multi-million-dollar payday and leave it at that. Why did you decide to start your own company?
Well, we decided to start my own company because boxing is in a state where it needs help, and I believe that with our relationships we have with several companies like the HBOs of this world. We believe that we can take boxing and take it back where we had the Muhammad Alis and where we had the Joe Frazier's of this world, and take boxing to the household all over the country and all over the world.
You know, what's made you unusual, I mean, I of course, I'm a huge boxing fan. In fact, I was at your fight against Mayweather, and I'm an HBO after Boxing After Dark on Saturday night. I'm a big fan. Right. What's made you unusual, though, is you've teamed up with other boxers like Marco Antonio Barrera, Bernard Hopkins, Sugar Shane Mosley. Why have you brought them together, and how has that changed the kind of fights and the kind of business that you're doing?
Well, what I try to do with the company, Golden Boy Promotions, is get the fighters involved. For instance, we have Marco Antonio Barrera, we have Bernard Hopkins, Sugar Shane Mosley, who are shareholders within the company, and therefore we can attract, for instance, more sponsors, which boxing needs. We're now attracting corporate America, blue chip companies that are getting involved with boxing. So it's a wonderful kind of like a breath of fresh air for the sport. Obviously, with our impeccable reputation within the sport with Golden Boy Promotions, we're able to attract these blue chip companies, and hopefully the boxing fan will return to watch and support this wonderful sport.
You know, speaking of corporate America, Richard Schaefer, the former managing director at Swiss Bank UBS, you brought him on to be the CEO of Golden Boy Promotions. Why did you do that?
Well, Richard Schaefer, first of all, was a huge boxing fan. I mean, he tells me the days when he would listen to the Muhammad Ali fights on the radio in Switzerland. And so I found a passion in Richard Schaefer for the sport of boxing, and obviously with his business savvy, it was a perfect combination to bring him on board. He was very generous enough to come on board and believed in the sport of boxing, believed in Golden Boy, and we make a perfect team. We've been able now to work with the MGM Mirage, where we do all our fights. We've been able to attract Southwest Airlines, who is the airline provider, official airline provider for Golden Boy Promotions. We are in discussions now with a big internet outlet that will, I believe, take boxing to the next level. And Golden Boy Promotions recently acquired the Ring magazine, which is the oldest publication in boxing today. So I believe with the internet outlet today and what we can do with Richard Schaefer, and I think those combinations, we will be able to attract the younger fan that boxing needs.
You know, Oscar, in your last fight against Floyd Mayweather Jr., you banked $43 million in 36 minutes of fighting, not bad, but you also set the record of 2 million plus pay-per-view households. That was good for $120 million in revenue. What does that say about the state of boxing? If it's a great fight, people will come?
Well, the state of boxing is alive and well, and I believe that if you do the job right, if you have the right partners, people will watch, because people all over the country love the sport of boxing. I remember as a kid, when I was 5, 6 years old, watching huge major fights and everybody stopping what they're doing to watch these events. So can we bring that back? Absolutely. We broke all records in pay-per-view revenue. We broke all records in the gate. We televised the fight in over 176 countries. So that's an indication that boxing is alive and well. It just has to be done right with the right people. And we believe at Golden Boy Promotions we have the right antidote to take it to that next level.
But Oscar, isn't the issue the younger audience, younger people in general, who are choosing ultimate fighting over traditional boxing?
Well, that's the case now today, but I believe that with the Ultimate Fighting, they're doing a tremendous, wonderful job, and I have to commend them for doing so. But I believe with the history that boxing has, that's something that the UFC is lacking, and I believe that we'll have to wait and see in a few years how the UFC responds to those downfalls that various sports always have. For instance, the NFL wasn't what it is today. The Major League Baseball also had its downfalls several years ago. So every sport goes through those ups and downs, and we'll have to wait and see how the UFC responds to that, how it takes that punch, so to speak. So I believe with boxing, with the years of experience and the history we have, boxing can only just go up.
All right, so do I take it that you will fight the winner of the Ricky Hatton-Floyd Mayweather fight?
Well, I'm crossing my fingers that Ricky Hatton does well in this fight, which I believe he will. Floyd Mayweather is a great champion. He's a tremendous person, a good dancer, as we see in Dancing with the Stars, and may the best man win, but hopefully we can get the winner of that fight.
Any preference?
Well, the preference would be obviously Ricky Hatton, because he does come to fight.
All right, Oscar. Well, I have to say I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch with Floyd, but I'll take Ricky Hatton.
Absolutely. I mean, Ricky Hatton would be an exciting fight. Floyd Mayweather, he's a tremendous fighter, a great person, and like I said, it would be a pleasure to be in the ring with him once again.
All right, Oscar De La Hoya, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, coming up, Washington's ready to unleash some serious spending increases, and you may have to foot the bill. We'll head to D.C. when Money for Breakfast returns.
If you're remodeling your kitchen, you can't afford to miss this information. It's the information retailers don't want you to see.
Prior to joining Direct Buy, we'd already priced out our whole entire house of cabinetry for this project, and it was going to come to a little over $60,000. But when we went back to Direct Buy, it came back with $38,000, and that was everything included. So the savings is almost too good to be true.
Imagine paying insider prices for items like kitchen cabinets, plumbing fixtures, countertops, and appliances. There's now a way to buy virtually everything you need at prices you never imagined possible. Call the number on your screen now to receive your free insider's guide to buying direct. Plus, you'll also receive a free visitor's pass for an exclusive tour of your local Direct Buy showroom. Call right now to get started buying the Direct Buy way. Stop paying retail and become part of Direct Buy, the private members-only showroom and design center. Don't wait another minute. Pick up the phone and call now.
Tonight, is there anything he can't do? It's the new major business deal that has the financial world buzzing. Virgin Chief Sir Richard Branson tells all. Dave's got it covered on the next America's Nightly Scoreboard.
Presidential candidates and members of Congress are proposing spending increases in many programs based on revenue sources that many of us might find questionable. Joining me now from Washington for details is Fox Business reporter Adam Shapiro. Hi, Adam.
Good morning, Peter. You know, it depends on which group you're looking at when it comes to spending. We can talk about the presidential candidates because they're a lot like that 1980s song, Promises, Promises. They're making a lot of promises right now, but what really happens after the election has yet to be seen. And right now in Congress, as they're debating the appropriations bills and trying to move forward with a budget, there are some promises being made. For instance, today the Senate's going to take up the Commerce and the Justice appropriations bill. The president asked for about $52 billion in spending. The House, in their version of this bill, wanted $54 billion, and now the Senate is offering $56 billion. It just keeps going up, but nobody's talking about how they're going to pay for the proposed increases in all of this. And some of the Democrats are talking about allowing the Bush tax cuts that we got in 2003 to just expire in 2010, and that would be one way to start paying for some of this increased spending. But let's look at the presidential candidates, because on the campaign trail, all kinds of promises are being made. Let's start with Hillary Clinton. Everybody knows about the health care that she is proposing for some forms of national health care. And one estimate says this would cost $1 trillion. Well, one of the ways she's proposing to pay for this is to allow the Bush tax cuts to go away in 2010, but also to repeal tax cuts on the top two income tax brackets. That's people paying roughly 35% to 33% of their income. So that's part of her plan to pay for it. But then you take a look at Senator Barack Obama, the other candidate for president. He wants to eliminate capital gains on startup businesses. This would be a good pro-business stance. But then how do you pay for it? Well, he's proposing to eliminate offshore tax havens. Also wants to talk about carried interest. That's where the hedge fund investors and managers are able to report their earnings and then pay a much smaller amount in income taxes on that. He also wants to increase the capital gains, the highest capital gains bracket on people. He wants to raise capital gains to 28%. Then let's take a look at John Edwards. He wants to offer a $500 savings kind of program in which families earning up to $75,000 would get some kind of matching grant from the federal government for $500, up to $500. How would he pay for it? He would raise capital gains to 28% on people who earn the most amount of money, and he would also tax the hedge funds and private equity at regular rates. That's talking about this carried interest issue. Instead of allowing the managers to pay much less than some people think they ought, he would want to tax them at about 35% of their earnings. So those are some of the plans from the Democrats. We're going to take a look at what the Republicans are offering next time we see you. But the bottom line is there's a lot of proposals to increase spending by billions of dollars, and there's not a lot of talk about how to pay for it. S-chip, this whole health issue, is a very good example. The way they want to pay for that is through an increase in cigarette taxes, and we're talking about $35 billion. The problem is it's been shown that when you increase taxes on cigarettes, people who smoke less. So they'll buy fewer cigarettes and there won't be as much tax revenue to pay for things. So that's part of the problem they're all facing on Capitol Hill.
Oh, Adam, at this time of year when I used to cover Washington, we used to call this the start of silly season. Anyway, thanks, Adam Shapiro.
Silly
our
would be a good way to describe it.
All right, thanks to you, Adam, from our Washington Bureau. Now let's go out to our Chicago Bureau, and our reporter Jeff Block is here with a little tour. Jeff, good morning.
Good morning to you, Peter. Good morning from the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. You know, you're looking through the lens of the very first ever live roving camera on the floor of the Mercantile Exchange. I am standing right now in the middle of the S&P 500 pit. This is, and I want to give you the latest on the S&P. It looks like it's been trading in a fairly narrow range this morning. It's up about 0.4 of a point, but a fairly flat open is the 0.2 on Wall Street. I want to give you a walkthrough here. No one's ever done a live roving camera on the floor of the Merc before, or in fact any of the Chicago exchanges. And one of the things that's going to enable us to do is when this action happens out here in the pit, we'll be able to move from pit to pit and give you a sense of what is moving the markets. Last week, for example, we were over here and we had a 200-point swing in on the New York Stock Exchange. We began to see it first here in the S&P 500 pit. This is the biggest pit, by the way, here at this floor of the Merc. And so we would be able to walk up to those traders and give you a sense for what they think is moving the markets. So that enables us to really be much more nimble over here. I want to give you a quick run through, and this is a great opportunity because this is before trading kicks off. We're about 45 minutes away from the open, so no one in the pits right now, and you got to get a unique look at the Merc. These are this is a cattle pit over here. To my left is the hog pit, and of course we wouldn't want to get away without showing you perhaps one of the classic pictures of Chicago. This is the pork belly futures pit. So throughout the day today and throughout many of the days here on Fox Business Network, we'll be combing the floors of both the Merc and the Chicago Board of Trade, these two exchanges having merged this year in an $8 billion deal that makes this the world center for futures trading, and of course much of the world coming here to Chicago to try and manage its risk. Oh, hey, one quick thing before we get away. I want to show you this. Take a peek in there, Bob. This is the milk pit. And again, this opens in about 3/4 of an hour. And this is the last pit where they, if you spin back around, Bob, the last pit where they actually write the numbers on a dry erase board. So the greatest technology in the world here in Chicago, and perhaps
Still some of the magic greatest markers.
history as well. You know, it used to be chalkboards, but that kind of got a little messy. So the dry erase works much better.
Hey, Jeff, let's just bring this home for the folks at home. The reason why we're out there is because these pits, these trading places, are where the prices of commodities like milk and eggs and pork bellies, which, by the way, is the stuff they make bacon from, this is where all those prices are set. So even though we want to stay away from jargon, it's important to follow this, the pricing and the trading in these pits, because it ends up being what folks pay for their goods in the grocery store.
It's a fascinating story here, and this is, particularly here in the futures pits, this is where you start to see the first rumblings. This is where you get some sense of what's going to happen down the road. So as we look at all these pits here, and there's another floor, we'll show you another floor. We'll also show you today the Globex Nerve Center. That is the place where most of the trading is done these days electronically, not so much in these pits anymore, although the pits are still very, very active. We'll show you that as well. And in a couple of hours' time, we're going to have Terry Duffy, who is the chairman of the Merc, and he'll give us a complete tour of this place. It is fascinating to see it, and I think we'll drive it home for you. We'll make it in such a way that you can understand it, although there's plenty to understand down here at the Chicago Merc.
All right, Jeff, thanks for that report. Coming up next on Money for Breakfast, we'll take a look at the box office scoreboard. We'll tell you if The Rock had the right game plan to stay at #1 this weekend. We'll be right back.
We're debt-free.
You are! We take regular people and completely revolutionize their lives.
The show where cash is king. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Tired of all the rubbing and scrubbing, cleaning the hard way?
Anthony Sullivan here for the new Sonic Scrubber, the powerful, portable sonic cleaner that fits in the palm of your hand. It blasts away dirt and grime in seconds without any scrubbing. The Sonic Scrubber's strong bristle brush uses sonic oscillation technology to scrub away buildup in the bathroom, making cleaning easier, faster, and better. It's specially designed for the tough cleaning jobs in your bathroom and powers through the stuff you just go crazy trying to clean. You can't scrub a corner with a toothbrush, but Sonic Scrubber can. Just snap on the comb brush. Its pointed end and angled design gets into corners and makes old grout look like new. The Sonic cleaning action even removes calcium and hard water stains. Then just snap on the softer bristle brush and let the Sonic Scrubber go to work on fixtures. It contours to the curves, bringing back the shine. The secret's the Sonic technology. You get an amazing 3,600 scrubs per minute that destroy dirt and grime on contact. Use the large bristle brush for bigger jobs. It's great for removing the ring of soap scum in the tub. Call now and you'll get the Sonic Scrubber plus 5 scrub brushes for just $19.99. But that's not all. Call right now and we'll include a Sonic Scrubber for the kitchen and around the house free. Just pay separate shipping and handling. Use it for everyday household cleanups. It makes quick work of burnt or messes on cookware, easily cleans up a dirty stovetop, and nothing's better for spills and splatters in a microwave. The Sonic Scrubber is even powerful enough to loosen stains on carpet, clothing, and furniture without damaging the fabric. You get it all. A Sonic Scrubber for the bathroom, a free Sonic Scrubber for the kitchen and household, plus 6 scrub brushes, a huge value, all for just $19.99. Here's how to order.
Call now to get your Sonic Scrubber for only $19.99. You'll get the amazing bathroom scrubber and a set of 4 brush heads for one low price. But call now and we will throw in a kitchen and household scrubber for free. Call 1-800-809-1625 now.
Now let's head upstairs to the Fox Business News desk with Robert Gray for an update on this morning's business headlines. Robert.
Yeah, we're definitely following Citigroup. Citigroup out with earnings this morning. They did come in ahead of the average estimate from analysts on Wall Street. 47 cents was the headline number. Their revenue also did beat the average estimate from those analysts. It was more than they had predicted back on October the 1st, but they also had some bigger charges than they had predicted a couple of weeks ago when they came out and were forecasting the 60% drop in their profits from a year ago. Now, they did have bigger losses from loans and subprime mortgages that they were going to repackage and sell as instruments on Wall Street, known as CDOs. Also about $3 billion higher consumer credit costs, more than they had been expecting. They were blaming upticks and basically rising mortgage delinquencies and defaults. They're talking about this on their conference call. Right now, we are tracking the headlines coming out of that call. It is ongoing. So we will be following Citigroup. Definitely, it's in your Fox 50. It's a member of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the biggest bank in the U.S. We'll be continuing to follow that. Also, headlines crossing as they are joining in with some other biggest banks, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, Chase, to rescue banks from losses on mortgage securities here. And we've been following that story for you all day. My colleague Sandra Smith has been on that beat. And Mattel. Of course, you know the toy maker. Of course, they had the big recall with lead paint-based toys made in China. Third quarter profit did fall, and it did fall short of estimates on Wall Street due to this recall. They took a charges of around $40 million related to that. Sales were up 3%, but again, short of the average estimate of analysts. So short on the profits, short on revenue. Mattel stock is moving lower today. We will be keeping an eye on Mattel for you, Peter. Back over to you.
Okay, Robert, thank you. Now to our special segment, Box Office Scorecard, where we break down the numbers of movies out in theaters now and talk about strategies for success by the big movie studios. And now to the man who's got all the numbers and the inside info from Los Angeles, Paul Dergarabedian. Did I get that, Paul?
Dergarabedian, close enough.
Dergarabedian. Thank you, Paul. First time.
Great to be here.
President of Media by Numbers. Welcome, Paul. Well,
Thank you.
So we have a new winner at the top of the box office this weekend. Run through it for us.
Yes, we do. Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married did $21.5 million to knock The Game Plan out of the #1 spot. The Game Plan, a big surprise. The Rock, in a family film, has done extremely well. Even in its third weekend at the #2 position, did $11.5 million, a drop of just 31%. That film's up to $60 million, but definitely the big story is the Tyler Perry film.
Yeah, and Tyler Perry has a pretty good track record with these opening weekend films. He has a loyal following.
Oh, he definitely does. In 2005, he had Diary of a Mad Black Woman. That opened with over $20 million and at #1. In 2006, he had the Medea's Family Reunion open with over $30 million at #1. This guy is just a hit-making machine. I think his films speak to a large cross-section of the audience. There are religious overtones in these films I think a lot of faith-based audiences really respond to, and it has just really worked. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised the next time Tyler Perry opens a film and it opens at #1.
Let's talk about some of the other films that opened over the weekend. Elizabeth, The Golden Age. How did that do?
Yeah, that did about $6.6 million. That opened in the #6 spot. I think because it's a period piece, it appeals to older audiences. That's a film where audiences are going to come out over time. That's not the audience that rushes out opening weekend and gives them a big pop in that initial run. So I think that one will do well over time. Also, Michael Clayton expanded the George Clooney film. They added over 2,500 more theaters. It opened in limited release last weekend. It did quite well. It opened, it expanded and wound up at #3 with just over $11 million. And then in the fourth position was We Own the Night, which is the Mark Wahlberg, Joaquin Phoenix film, and that did about $11 million. So Michael Clayton and We Own the Night neck and neck.
Yeah, well, now, this Michael Clayton film got some terrific reviews. A lot of Oscar buzz right now for George Clooney on this one. But it kind of started out opening in an art house strategy, and then when it got the reviews, wider release. Is that typical?
Well, that's typical for this time of year, and Michael Clayton had sort of this textbook strategy of opening in a handful of theaters opening weekend. Last weekend did almost 50,000 per theater. That's a really big number on a per theater basis. I think Warner Brothers did a terrific job with this. They got the reviews, the buzz builds, and then they open it wide this past weekend, and they do quite well with it. And I think this is another very long-term performer that's going to get more and more Oscar buzz and play well through the whole holiday season.
Well, We Own the Night, which you mentioned just a minute ago, really a great cast. Joaquin Phoenix, Mark Wahlberg, Robert Duvall. I saw some pretty good reviews for it. Was that a disappointment this weekend?
Well, I think given that cast and the great marketing, I think you may have expected more from it. However, again, these adult dramas don't usually open huge. They play out over time and get the buzz building. And a lot of studios have had to decide, are they going to go with this so-called platform release, or do they go wide? Sony went wide with We Own the Night, but I think that's a good strategy. You can't go limited with every film, and certainly with the big stars that were in this film, it really deserved that wide release break.
All right, Paul, thanks for joining us this morning, Media by Numbers.
Thank you.
We have a little bit of breaking news right now. We've been waiting all morning, and now it's official. Some major banks will band together to prevent a second wave of mortgage woes from hurting the economy. Citibank, Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase are planning to support the market for mortgage-backed securities and other investments with the encouragement of the U.S. Treasury Department. The banks are going to create a fund to buy as much as $100 billion worth of debt. That, in turn, could give investors more confidence to put money into the troubled credit market. We'll be right back with more Money for Breakfast.
Tonight, trumping the Donald. Can this multifaceted daughter outshine her dad when it comes to her new business? Ivanka Trump tells all. Pull up a stool. It's time for a shot of Gomez and Willard Straight Up. Happy Hour.
Stay focused for the next 60 seconds. That's all the time I have to tell you the truth about HD television. The truth your cable company doesn't want you to hear. Cable wants you to believe they're keeping up with HD capacity. They're not. But DirecTV is. And soon, DirecTV will be offering up to 150 HD channels. That's 3 times more than cable. Call now for the best in HD. DirecTV also has more sports in HD than cable. And with DirecTV, every channel is 100% digital picture and sound. Do you know what else? Packages start at only $29.99 per month. Compare that to your cable bill. There are no startup costs, no equipment to buy, and professional installation is free. Call now. You also get a free HD receiver or DirecTV DVR upgrade. Call immediately and receive a free 7-inch portable DVD player from America's #1 satellite provider. Time's up. Make the call.
Tonight, debt disasters. Say goodbye to your money woes and gain financial control. Dave has the answers to get back in the game. Advice that's always on the money. It's about money, plain and simple. Dave Ramsey on Fox Business.
Beautiful morning in Times Square here as we get to the top of the hour on the East Coast. Good morning. Today is Monday, October 15th. Welcome to Money for Breakfast. We're less than a half an hour away from the opening bell, and we'll be keeping a close eye on that as Fox Business Network takes the stage at the NASDAQ. We'll also check in on the progress of construction at Ground Zero with the developer of the site, Larry Silverstein. And we'll let it rip with skateboarding legend Tony Hawk. His new video game, Proving Ground, hits the stores tomorrow. We'll talk to him about that and what makes his game so special. Plus, we'll introduce you to a cowboy who is clothing challenged. The Naked Cowboy. What does he have to do with Fox Business? Well, he's the first subject of our weekly series, How Much Do You Make? I'm sure you can't guess. Makes a lot more than I thought. Getting down to business and presidential politics now, we are smack dab in the middle of the debate season, and every candidate has an economic plan. And one of those candidates, Republican Senator Sam Brownback. He joins us live now from Newton, Massachusetts. Welcome, Senator, to Money for Breakfast.
Good morning. Pleasure to join you.
All right. Give us the bullet points of your economic plan.
Well, mine is that we keep the United States as a growth platform, that one of the key things that we need to do for this country is to grow. And to do that, we've got to have the right policies in place to do that. And I think on the federal level, for us, the things we've got to do are things like an optional flat tax, personal Social Security accounts, and restraining the growth of federal spending. And here we have shown that I think Republicans or Democrats in control, the system is built to spend. So I'm pushing that we change the system altogether, take a commission process on an annual review of programs that should be eliminated, and then require Congress to vote on that commission report whether to keep or to eliminate the programs.
How would you balance the budget in all this?
Well, the key to balancing the budget is growing the economy. 70 to 80% of balancing your budget is getting and keeping a growing economy. We're seeing the deficit going down now. I think it was $162 billion was the report last week, and that was down substantially. That's primarily based on a growing economy. Optional flat tax, personal Social Security accounts are key ways to keep that economy growing.
You just said optional flat tax. Talk about that. What do you mean optional, and how would it work?
Well, I've been around this system for a while, and I've tried to go directly at the tax code. This code